Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome everyone to 21st Century Cooking, making meals delicious, nutritious and sustainable. Bonjour tout le monde. Il me fait grand plaisir de vous accueillir pour notre sommet virtuel concernant la cuisine du 21e siècle, délicieuse, nutritive et durable. And also, Happy World Health Day. C'est la journée mondiale de la santé aujourd'hui et c'est la raison qu'on a choisi cette date-là. Je suis Judy Vargatot, la gestionnaire des partenariats Impact avec Collège et Institut Canada. I'm Judy Vargatot, the manager of Impact Partnership Services at Colleges and Institutes Canada, or CICan. Avant de commencer, et pendant que nous nous réunissons aujourd'hui sur une plateforme virtuelle, je voudrais prendre un moment pour reconnaître l'importance de la terre que nous appelons chacun notre chez nous. Nous le faisons pour réaffirmer notre engagement et notre responsabilité d'améliorer les relations entre les nations et de renforcer notre propre compréhension des peuples autochtones locaux et de leur culture. Before we get started, and while we meet today in a virtual platform, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the land, which we each call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relations between nations and enhancing our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and cultures. D'un océan à l'autre, nous reconnaissons le territoire ancestral et non cédé de tous les Inuits, Métis et Premières Nations qui habitent cette nation. Veuillez vous joindre à moi dans un moment de réflexion pour reconnaître les torts et les erreurs du passé et pour réfléchir à comment nous sommes et pouvons chacun et chacune, à sa manière, essayer d'avancer dans un esprit de réconciliation et de collaboration. From coast to coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that call this nation home. Please join me in a moment of reflection to acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past, and to consider how we are and can each, in our own way, try to move forward in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. Merci beaucoup. Thank you. So as many of you know, Colleges and Institutes Canada, or CICan, is a national association that represents nearly 140 colleges, institutes, polytechnics, cégeps, and universities with a college mandate across Canada. 95% of Canadians and 86% of Indigenous peoples live within 50 kilometers of one of our campuses. And as such, our reach and our responsibility are large. This past year, we heard firsthand accounts from the COVID-19 pandemic impacts on the food and culinary industries that have resulted in unprecedented challenges. At CICan, we look forward to supporting our members in achieving a better future for peoples and communities by reimagining our food supply and promoting delicious and sustainable cuisine. Comme bon nombre d'entre vous le savent peut-être, CICan est une association pan-canadienne qui représente près de 140 collèges, instituts, cégeps, polytechniques et universités avec un mandat collégial partout dans le Canada. 95% des Canadiens et 86% des peuples autochtones vivent à moins de 50 kilomètres d'un de nos campus. Et donc, notre portée et nos responsabilités sont importantes. L'année dernière, dû à COVID, les industries alimentaires et culinaires ont eu beaucoup de défis sans précédent. Chez CICan, nous sommes impatients de soutenir nos membres dans la réalisation d'un avenir meilleur pour les peuples et les communautés, en réinventant notre approvisionnement alimentaire et en promouvant une cuisine délicieuse et durable. Today, we are looking at how culinary and food service professionals can contribute to Build Back Better and contribute to Canada's commitments to the United Nations 2030 agenda. In 2015, Canada and all countries committed to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. These global goals set out a blueprint to achieve a better, more inclusive, and sustainable future for all. CICan committed to these goals in September 2020 by signing the Global SDG Accord. Today is part of that commitment to bring us together with our members to collectively build expertise so that we may all contribute to the world's and Canada's ambitions related to the 2030 Agenda. In particular today, our event focuses on SDG 3, good health and well-being. And in Canada, the federal government has chosen 3 ambitions related to SDG 3, and we are pleased to be contributing to Ambition 1, Canadians adopt healthy behaviors, in which consumption of sodium is to be reduced along with sugar and saturated fat, and the consumption of fruits and vegetables is to be increased. This Canadian ambition aligns with the new or not so new Canada Food Guide that was launched in 2019. This guide tells Canadians to make half their plate fruits and vegetables, 1/4 whole grains, and 1/4 proteins from both plant and animal sources. All of it with little or no added sodium. So today we aim to contribute to that shift in culinary and food-related professions, as they or you all have a large role to play in contributing to global and Canadian goals of better health for all. 21st century cooking skills will allow our graduates to be at the cutting edge of food trends and consumer needs. We are truly delighted to be collaborating today with faculty at our member institutions who brought their expertise to the chef's table, so to speak. I'd like to thank Nova Scotia Community College, the Agricultural Campus of Dalhousie, the George Brown College, and La Cité for their faculty support. And I'd also like to thank CAFSA, the Canadian College and University Food Service Professionals Association, for their part in making today possible. CICan could not have done this alone. And I also welcome students and faculty from over 20 of our member institutions, as well as staff from universities and food service companies that serve our campuses. We do have over 125 people registered for this event. So we look forward to a great time together. Nous sommes vraiment ravis de vous associer aujourd'hui à nos institutions membres qui ont apporté leur expertise à la table du chef, pour ainsi dire. Je tiens à remercier le Collège communautaire de Nova Scotia, le campus agriculturel de l'Université Dalhousie, George Brown College et La Cité pour leur soutien pédagogique. Et je voudrais également remercier CAFSA, the Canadian College and University Food Service Professionals Association, pour leur contribution à rendre aujourd'hui possible. CICan n'aurait pas pu faire ça seul. Je souhaite aussi la bienvenue aux professeurs et aux étudiants de plus de 20 de nos établissements membres, ainsi qu'au personnel des universités et des entreprises de restauration qui desservent nos campus. Bienvenue à toutes et à tous. So, lastly, just a couple of housekeeping notes. The event is from noon to 3 Eastern time, so 9 till noon on the West Coast, and adjusted accordingly. Well, there'll be a short break at about 10 after 1 Eastern time, where you'll be able to get up, stretch, get some delicious food, and rejoin us. The sessions are all being live streamed, as you can see, and you'll be able to post your questions and comments in the chat on the side. However, the answers will come in the last part of our meeting or our workshop, when we will be moving to Kumo Space, a fantastic venue where we will continue the conversation with our guests, our panelists, and each other. Kumo Space is specifically designed for more personal interactions. For example, imagine that you're at a conference and you line up at the microphone to ask the speaker a question, or that you turn to your colleagues that you're with there or new people and chat. That's what this venue is going to do. So we look forward to seeing you there. I'll tell you more about it when the time comes. Alors, avant de commencer, quelques éléments d'entretien. L'événement durera de midi à 15 heures, heure de l'Est, avec une pause de 10 minutes vers 13h10, où vous pourriez aller prendre quelque chose à manger ou bouger un petit peu. Toutes les sessions seront diffusées en direct et vous pouvez poser vos questions ou mettre vos commentaires dans le chat, la boîte à clavardage, mais les réponses viendront surtout dans Kumo Space, qui est la plateforme qui serait à la dernière partie de notre événement aujourd'hui, où vous pourriez poser des questions et interagir avec nos invités, nos panélistes, et entre vous aussi. Je vous en dirai plus après la pause, quand on se préparera pour transitionner. En termes de soutien technique, Si vous avez des problèmes, revenez sur ce lien-là. Il y aura toujours quelqu'un qui pourrait vous aider. If you have any technical challenges, getting over to Kumo Space, for example, you can come back here and someone will be here to help you. But it's a very straightforward and easy transition. So we know that Canadian culinary and nutrition specialists, chefs, and a new generation of food workers can help make the food industry healthier, greener, and more sustainable. So prepare yourself to be challenged, excited, and inspired. Nous savons que les spécialistes canadiens de cuisine et de la nutrition, les chefs et les nouvelles générations de travailleurs du secteur alimentaire peuvent contribuer à rendre l'industrie alimentaire plus saine, plus verte et plus durable. Donc, préparez-vous à être mis au défi, excité et inspiré. Now I'll be handing the stage over to our first presenter, to Rihanna Topan from the Forward Food Program of Humane Society International Canada, who will be setting the stage for us on food trends and cutting-edge research related to nutrition and sustainability. Forward Food supports institutions and businesses across Canada to increase their offerings of delicious and nutritious plant-based options that are better for animals, the environment, and human health. The program provides culinary trainings, recipes, and menu development support, educational sessions, and help with marketing and communications, all free of charge. Several of our college members have already benefited from participation in Forward Food, and I know Rihanna will be delighted to chat with you in Kumo Space if you want to know more. So please go ahead, Rihanna. The stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Judy. Thank you all for being here today. I'm so excited to be able to present to you virtually. And a huge thank you to the organizers as well for putting on this wonderful summit. So as Judy mentioned, my name is Rihanna Topan, and I'm with Humane Society International Canada, and I'm going to tell you a bit about our Forward Food Program and about some of the changes that are happening and need to happen for us to have a more sustainable and humane and healthy food system. So, as mentioned, I run a program called Forward Food. Now, I'm going to dive into detail in this in one moment, but I want to start by saying that obviously we're going to talk about a lot of different topics today related to healthy and sustainable eating. And we're going to talk about things like reducing our consumption of processed foods and foods that are high in salt, all of which are important. The thing I'm going to focus on is something that is really important to us, and that's shifting towards plant-based foods or plant-based diets or plant-forward foods and plant-forward diets for health and sustainability reasons. So I manage a program at HSI Canada called Forward Food. And essentially what we do is we work with anyone in the food service industry to add more plant-based options to their menus. And as Judy mentioned, best of all, everything that we provide is free of charge. We work with all kinds of food service professionals like chefs, dietitians, managers, any institution where there's a large volume of meals served, even businesses like restaurants or retailers, to help them put plants at the center of the plate where we belong. And to do that, we offer things like culinary trainings, we provide recipes and menu development support, we run educational or marketing workshops, we can even help to analyze the greenhouse gas impact of any changes to an institution's menu. And again, this is all done to make the food system more sustainable, more healthy, and more humane by putting plants at the center of the plate. Now, of course, during the COVID-19 pandemic, we haven't been able to offer our services in public or in person, but we've been able to pivot and offer them virtually. So these are examples from an event that we actually just concluded with Sodexo Canada. It was a culinary training that we did with their team, or members of their team, and it was actually the 4th virtual culinary training that we've run with them since the pandemic started. And to date, we've been able to train 34 of their chefs and managers from different units across the country. And in this case here, you can see we're having a discussion about different legumes, which are very sustainable, very healthy foods, many of which are actually grown here in Canada. And here's an example of a dish that we demonstrated using legumes. This is a lentil walnut taco with a mango cilantro salsa. Now, as I mentioned, and as Judy mentioned, everything that we provide is free of charge. The only thing that we ask for from our partner institutions in return is for them to take the Forward Food Pledge. And that's a commitment to change 20% of their current menus to be plant-based. And that's a meaningful, measurable way for food service professionals like yourselves to contribute to building a more humane, more healthy, and more sustainable food system in Canada. Now, you might be wondering, why do we focus so much on plant-based? Or if you've been paying attention to a lot of the changes in the food industry, why is the industry talking so much more about plant-based foods than ever before? And why are consumers looking for these? And it comes down to 3 simple reasons: that it's so much better for our planet, for human health and animal welfare, as I'm going to talk about. Now, This could be a much longer presentation. We could go into a lot of detail about these topics, but I'm just going to give a high-level overview of some of the latest available data and trends that we're seeing and why this is so important. So first and foremost, and I imagine this is why a lot of you might be here today, is environmental sustainability. It's been long recognized that the food choices that we make have a huge impact on the planet, and that that animal agriculture in particular has a lot of negative environmental consequences, and that by comparison, plant-based foods and plant-forward diets are much more environmentally sustainable. So, for example, animal agriculture is actually the leading cause of deforestation around the world, and this is because it requires a lot of resources to make space for crops to feed animals, or feedlots or ranches. And of course, this is bad from a climate change perspective, because not only does deforestation release carbon into the atmosphere, it reduces the Earth's ability to store carbon that we emit in the future. And that's really problematic because animal agriculture is a leading cause of global greenhouse gas emissions as well. You've probably heard the statistic that the animal agriculture industry is responsible for more greenhouse gas emissions than the entire global transportation sector. So all trucks, ships, planes, trains, cars combined. It's also a huge problem for biodiversity. So animal agriculture is actually the leading cause of habitat loss around the world because of all the natural habitats that we're destroying to make space for livestock farming. And again, this is horrible on so many levels. It's also threatening our own existence, ultimately, because we rely on so many of the species that we share the planet with. And there was a study from 2015 which found that this is our food choices are a huge contributor to biodiversity loss. And their conclusion was that we need to reduce our meat consumption to protect the other species we share the planet with. Unfortunately, this isn't just an issue on land either. It's also an issue in our water system. So animal agriculture is also a leading cause of ocean dead zones, which, just like they sound, are areas within our water systems that are so polluted that they're uninhabitable by marine life. And this has actually been found a number of times. We've seen the largest dead zone in the world actually be directly linked to animal farming in the United States. Sadly, it's not the only threat to our marine system, though. So because of overfishing, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization has actually declared that over 70% of the world's fisheries are either significantly depleted, overexploited, or fully exploited because of our demand for fish and fish products, and also because of indiscriminate fishing practices. And I actually just had the chance to watch the new documentary Seaspiracy over the weekend, which goes into this issue in much more detail if you're interested in checking that out. So the main takeaway here is that animal-based foods are much more resource-intensive to produce, and by shifting towards plant-based or plant-forward diets, we can drastically reduce the pressure we're putting on our natural environment. And as you can see here, people who follow a vegan diet have much smaller carbon footprints or food prints compared to people who follow other dietary habits. That's not to say that we all need to be eating completely vegan, but the more vegan we can eat, the better it is for the environment. Just to drive that point home further, this is actually a study that was released by Our World in Data just last month. And Our World in Data is a nonprofit based out of the University of Oxford. And they found that if the world adopted a plant-based diet, we could actually reduce global agricultural land use by 75%, which is obviously hugely substantial. Now, you've probably seen some of the headlines over the recent years about the state of climate change and how little time we have to address it. And while that's very scary, it gives me hope because we also see a lot of articles and studies and reports being published demonstrating the huge impact that we can actually have just by changing the way that we eat. And in fact, researchers have concluded that not only is shifting our diets towards plant-forward or plant-based important for climate change, it's actually essential. So it is a non-negotiable if we want to avoid an eco-crisis. Now, the second reason, and this is a very popular reason, especially among older segments of the population, is human health. And that's because there's a lot of research showing that plant-based or plant-forward diets are actually optimal for our health. This quote sums it up quite nicely. It is well established that individuals eating a vegetarian or vegan diet, so a plant-based or plant-forward diet, have a reduced risk for diabetes, they weigh less, they have lower blood pressure, and they have reduced risk for cardiovascular disease and certain types of cancer. This quote doesn't show it, but there's also links between plant-based and plant-forward eating and longer lifespans, as well as lower risk of all-around death. So given that these are many of the causes of death around the world, especially in industrialized countries like Canada, we could save a lot of lives, improve quality of life, and reduce the burden on our healthcare system simply by eating and serving more plants. Now, recognizing that fully or predominantly plant-based diets are optimal for health, all of these major healthcare organizations within North America and beyond have come out with statements or recommendations in favor of plant-based eating. And I'll give you a few examples. So Heart and Stroke in Canada has said that a plant-based diet can lower your blood pressure, improve cholesterol, help you achieve a healthier weight, and lower your risk of type 2 diabetes. Diabetes Canada has stated that low glycemic index foods such as legumes, whole grains, fruits, and vegetables can help control blood sugar, protect you from heart disease and stroke, and can make you feel full longer to help with losing weight. And the Canadian Cancer Society has found that about 4 in 10 cancer cases can be prevented through healthy living and policies. And they go on to recommend that we fill half our plate with fruits and vegetables, a quarter with whole grain foods, and a quarter with protein foods. Now, if that recommendation sounds familiar, it should, because it's consistent with the new Canada Food Guide that Judy alluded to, which was released by Health Canada a couple of years ago. And as you can see, the majority of this plate, actually 7/8 of this plate, are foods from plant-based sources. And this very much reflects the recommendations that I talked about, as well as the best available evidence when it comes to nutrition. Unfortunately, though, there was a study from 2017 published in the Canadian Journal of Public Health, which found that over 75% of Canadians were not meeting the Canada Food Guide's recommendations for the intake of fruits and vegetables. This was the previous food guide, again, being in 2017. And this was costing us approximately almost $4.5 billion annually because of things like hospital visits and sick time from work and premature death and disability. So obviously we still do need to make drastic changes to the way that we're eating. And there's 2 other public health links that I'll briefly mention as well. So one is the issue of antibiotic resistance, which I imagine many of you have heard about. If current trends continue, we're actually on track to have this be the leading cause of death around the world. And this is an issue and connected to the way that we eat because most of the antibiotics around the world are actually fed to livestock. So in the United States alone, it's about 80% of all antibiotics that are actually fed to animals to help them grow, to be larger, or to prevent infections. And so if we want to prevent antibiotic resistance, we need to be more responsible with our antibiotic use, which includes reducing our reliance on animal proteins. And of course, this is a new topic that we're paying more and more attention to, and that's the connection between what we eat and the emergence of zoonotic diseases. So last summer, in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, the United Nations Environment Program released a report investigating the causes of the emergence of new zoonotic diseases. And they found that one of the most likely causes is, quote unquote, the increasing human demand for animal protein. So again, if we also want to reduce our risk of future pandemics, we do need to seriously rethink the way that we eat and shift away from such a heavy reliance on animal proteins. And finally, I'll just briefly mention animal welfare is the third reason that a lot of consumers especially are shifting away from animal-based proteins and towards plant-based options instead. So I think if you asked any Canadian, any person on the street, no matter how they identify or how they choose to eat, if they think it's acceptable for an animal to suffer before they're killed for food, that person would say no. But the sad reality is that it's very hard to maintain high standards of animal welfare when you have thousands of animals being raised at a time and being done in a way that is meant to save as much money as possible. And the best example I can give of this is the use of things like intensive confinement systems or cages and crates like this, which are the norm within many industries in animal agriculture. And as you can see, it's very hard for animals like this when they're kept in such tiny cages that they can barely move to live anything like they would in nature. And so recognizing this and that this has become the norm a lot of the time, consumers are shifting away from eating more animal products. Now, whatever your reason, whether you're here today for environmental reasons, for health reasons, all three, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to listen because as Judy mentioned, you really do have the power and the influence to change the food system for the better and to make it not only better for our health, but the health of the planet and the health of the animals that we share it with. So thank you so much again for listening. I will be in the Kumo space if you have questions later today in room 2. You're also welcome to reach out to me by email at rtopan@hsi.org. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the summit. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Rihanna. Merci beaucoup. That was eye-opening and certainly a call to action. Now I can see how the Canada Food Guide aligns well with the most recent research and information that we now can act on. I know that a lot of people probably will want to chat with you in the Kumo space, so they look forward to that. Et maintenant, je vais passer la parole à ma collègue Florence Touré. I will pass the microphone on to my colleague Florence Touré, who is the Director of Project Delivery at Canadian Partnerships at CICan. Florence oversaw the delivery of the Beyond Salt project delivered by Colleges and Institutes Canada in collaboration with our member colleges and institutes across the country. She will be presenting the next segment and the moderator. So I invite you, Florence, to take the microphone and bienvenue.
Merci, Judy. Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour à tous. In this next session, you will get first-hand experience creating, testing sodium reduction teaching material as part of the CICan Beyond Salt project and its impact on cooking techniques and healthier ingredient selection. This panel will be moderated by Rima Hatoum, who works as a project manager at Food Processing Skills Canada, where she supports the food industry through leading food safety-related projects and developing training to strengthen employees' competencies and skills. She also teaches food safety and food processing courses as a part-time professor at Collège La Cité and University of Ottawa. Food Processing Skills Canada was instrumental in supporting CICan in designing the teaching material development process, and we are very grateful for their collaboration as well as all of the participating colleges and institutes across the country. Before I turn things over to Rima and our panelists, I wanted to let you know that the teaching materials developed as part of the Beyond Salt project will be made available to all of our member colleges and institutes, and you will receive an email over the next couple of weeks with instructions on how to access the material. At the end of the panel, we will also welcome Patricia Church of Salt Free Canada to share a few remarks on her initiative. So without further ado, I will turn things over to Rima Hatoum.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Florence, for this introduction, and I'm very happy to be here, part of this amazing project. So the Beyond Salt project is a pan-Canadian initiative aiming to reduce sodium in prepared and processed food and raise awareness of the health risk associated with overconsumption of salt and sodium in the Canadian diet. The project is funded by Health Canada as part of their initiative in its healthy eating strategy. And over the past year, CICan collaborated with 7 colleges and Food Processing Skills Canada to design, test, validate materials related to sodium reduction training courses. CICan used an approach, like an educative approach called BOPPS methodology, which stands for Bridge In, define the objectives, pre-assess, do the learning, then post-assess, and then summarize. Once the draft has been prepared, a peer review took place to validate the teaching material. And then in the final stage, we moved to a testing phase where CICan led a group of 4 colleges and institutes to test the material. So in the next 30 minutes or 35 minutes, we will be discussing how we raise the awareness on salt reduction and the health associated with overconsumption of sodium. And we want to see how the change in the curriculum can help in spreading the knowledge and education within the new generations of chefs, and also change the behavior of the students, the chef, how they cook, and also ultimately the consumer. We want to discuss how this collaboration took place and how these colleges all across the country were able to do that. And we're going to share also the lesson learned and announce the release of the material with the rest of the colleges. And finally, we want to discuss what the next steps can be. So I want to start by welcoming our panelists. We have Sharon Boy who's chair chef school at George Brown College. Hello, Sharon. Sharon is a nutritional chef and holds a Master of Environment Study with a graduate diploma in environmental and sustainability education. Sharon has a broad experience in curriculum development. She already delivered materials related to nutrition, culinary art, and food studies. So we were so lucky that Sharon helped us in designing and delivering materials in the nutrition theory course. And also she delivered material already prepared by other colleges for online teaching and online lab. We have Annabelle Forg, qui est une diététiste professionnelle, professeure et coordinatrice du programme de gestion de la nutrition et des services alimentaires au Collège La Cité. Annabelle a développé et implémenté le matériel pédagogique pour le projet Beyond Salt dans le cadre du programme de gestion de la nutrition et des services alimentaires. On a trop bénéficié de la compétence, des compétences d'Annabelle comme une diététiste. Mais très heureuse de vous avoir. Andrew Stevens is also joining us. He's a manager of tourism and culinary programs at Nova Scotia Community College. He's a cook by trade and a certified chef de cuisine with almost 30 years of experience working in restaurants and hotels across Canada. Andrew was part of the early stage of brainstorming related to this project, and then he also helped other members from his college to develop and design materials and helped other members to deliver and implement testing these materials. So we benefited a lot from his experience in terms of leaderships and overseeing everything. So welcome everyone. And to facilitate and understand more what amazing job you have done, I will use the Six Thinking Hat approach of Edward Di Bono, which is a tool to boost the productivity and creativity thinking. And it summarizes how we want to see the project from different perspectives. So the 6 hats are the white hats, which is the data, what are available for us to study. Second is the sunshine, which is the yellow sunshine, where the positive, the advantage of reducing salt in sodium in our diet. Then we want to learn the blue hat, under the blue hat, the process that you took to develop and design these materials. And then the challenges you face, we will learn about that under the black hat. We want to speak about our emotions under the red hat, where we know eating is very emotional and it's very personal. So it's very big part of this discussions to make it successful. And then we will finish with the green hat, where we want to say what are the creative and how we gave means to our students to think outside the box and not only use salt as the first ingredient in our in the discussion. So for the next a few minutes, really, we wanna speak about all these, and I welcome you all, and I welcome also all the comments that we will have to receive from you participants. I will try to answer your questions within the presentations if it's possible. If not, Kumo Space is the right place to go. So let's start under the yellow hat, and we want to start with Sharon. We want to learn what are the benefits of reducing salt and sodium in our food.
Well, as we know, too much sodium can lead to a number of health concerns, including high blood pressure, and increased risk of other cardiovascular diseases. So by reducing our sodium intake, we are going to reduce our blood pressure levels and risks in those regards to cardiovascular disease. But it's also connected to a few other things like kidney disease, some cancers, as well as osteoporosis. By reducing it, we're going to improve our health impacts.
Ok. Annabelle, voulez-vous commenter quelque chose pour ce sujet-là? Quels sont les avantages de réduire le sodium et le sel dans notre alimentation?
Oui, donc comme mentionné par Sharon, c'est certain que en réduisant notre consommation en sodium, on va aller réduire le risque de maladies chroniques, donc soit du point de vue prévention, qui va avoir vraiment un impact positif après ça dans les prochaines années pour les maladies cardiovasculaires. Donc, on veut prévenir les complications, mais aussi prévenir les diagnostics de maladies cardiovasculaires. Puis en plus, comme Sharon disait aussi, il y a aussi des problématiques qui peuvent être reliées aux maladies rénales. Donc, en sensibilisant les gens déjà à réduire leur consommation en sodium, on peut dans le fond prévenir les complications plus tard.
Okay, excellent. Now, if we want to wear the white hat, we want to learn, based on your findings, what were the major sources of sodium in our food? Si vous pouvez nous répondre, Annabelle.
Oui, donc de notre point de vue, avec les exercices qu'on a fait avec les étudiants, c'est certain que la première source, probablement la plus populaire pour l'apport en sodium, donc c'est le sel, donc le sel de table que les gens ont tendance à ajouter pour assaisonner soit leur recette ou leur repas. La deuxième chose qu'on a retrouvée aussi, c'est beaucoup dans les aliments transformés, donc les aliments qu'on va acheter de l'industrie alimentaire, soit comme les viandes, les charcuteries. Si on regarde aussi les repas pré-préparés, donc des repas qu'on peut mettre au micro-ondes pour manger, pour sauver, économiser un petit peu de temps, souvent ces produits-là vont être très, très riches en sodium. Donc, il faut faire attention à ça. Donc, ce que les étudiants ont pu constater, c'est l'importance de choisir ces ingrédients nous-mêmes puis de cuisiner à la maison pourrait avoir un impact significatif sur notre apport en sodium.
Mm-hmm. Sharon, do you want to add something to this, or I can translate what Annabelle has already said, where really the major sources were mostly the food, the processed food that we buy, that the charcuteries, like the processed meat, the cheese, the raw material that we use that's already processed. And then, if I understand correctly, the salt that we add into the meal itself, it's not really the major one. It's really the other processed food, the ready-to-eat ones that we want to use. So the raw material, choosing the raw material is very important for our students to know how to have a good and healthy food. So we want to learn from Andrew now. What is the current situation in the curriculum, culinary programs across the country in regards to sodium and salt use?
Thanks, Rima. Broadly speaking, culinary students are typically taught that salt is the #1 ingredient used for adjusting, seasoning of savory foods. It's easy, efficient, and an inexpensive way to increase flavor. Nutrition is a subject that is taught in culinary curriculum. However, I don't believe that nutrition and understanding the impacts of added salt on health is taught holistically across all courses in culinary programs.
Okay. So let's move forward to the blue hat, and let's learn from you guys. What did you do exactly to design and develop these materials, and what courses you choose, what models you designed, how you integrated these teaching materials, and how was the feedback, like how the students welcomed this, and other faculty members, because you collaborated with others also. So can we start with Sharon, please?
Sure. So we used, as you explained at the beginning, we used the BOPS model that was proposed by CICan and developed bridge-in material, looked at the objectives, and included some participatory learning in there. And so I have some slides to show as well. The two courses that we piloted the material in was a theory-based course, nutrition course for culinary students called Nutrition from a Culinary Perspective. And then we also piloted it in our Culinary Foundations course, which is a hands-on lab setting for first-year students. And both of those were delivered online, given our current situation. And I integrated the nutrition theory course was the product that we had developed here at George Brown College. And the Culinary Foundations was an adaptation from the materials developed by another college, Assiniboine, to fit into our curriculum. And so we had developed a Kahoot to engage students, get an idea of what they already knew about sodium in the diet. And then we looked at, how salt is in our diet and that it is an important factor in seasoning food. But as Andrew said, it's an easy and expensive way, and that there's lots of other ways to build flavor. We talked about, why is too much sodium in the diet is problematic and the health implications of that. And we also looked at sort of what the current situation is around sodium intake in the Canadian diet, and that on the average, we're getting often almost double what the recommended amounts are. Whoops. So the other thing that we did to get them kind of engaged and to understand sort of the impacts of sodium is we talked about how we gave examples of how it can add up very easily in the diet. So looking at some of those processed foods, but some of these wouldn't even be necessarily that unusual for a student to be eating in a day, and giving them a picture of what that can mean in terms of the sodium in their diet. And then to further the application, we looked at a recipe and had them identify those raw ingredients that they may be using in a very typical recipe that they're making, where the sodium might be originating from. And so in this case, for something like a shepherd's pie, very common Canadian dish that we might be cooking, what are the different ingredients that might contain sodium in addition to just the salt that they're adding, so that they get a broader picture and more defined picture of where the sodium exists in these recipes. And then we looked at the different things that can build flavor. So this is a summary of a number of slides that we would go through with students, but in the interest of time, just wanted to kind of show you what was there. So looking at what the role spices play in flavoring and how you can utilize those. Acid is another one, how you might utilize that in cooking. And the flavors of umami that come from different ingredients and how to build umami. And then as well looking at, the fresh side, as well as the cooking techniques that students are working on and building in these courses. So it is a very relatable thing for them. And how when we're teaching them how to sear something, that builds flavor in itself. And so they can rely on this and their creativity to build more flavor in dishes rather than relying solely on sodium. And then we took it one step further and we actually had students play with a recipe and do some modifications to it to see how they could incorporate ingredient and technique modifications into the recipe to build flavor with reducing the amount of sodium in a dish. So bringing it all together, really looking at the application of the knowledge for students. So it didn't just become about numbers. And that was done both in the theory class as well as in the online lab. So really trying to tie it together for them. And in the cooking lab, we then also did a cooking exercise. And what students did was they cooked pasta, a very simple, straightforward dish, in 3 different things. One in your typical salted water, one in an unsalted vegetable broth, and one in an unsalted chicken broth that they had made in the class. They were to take a picture of the 3 dishes that they made and taste them and do a sensory evaluation of this. And so by doing this, they were able to see the difference on the same dish cooked in 3 different ways, very, very simply, and get a real sensory evaluation on the outcomes of that flavor building. And we thought that was a really good connection to the skills and the palate building that we're trying to create with students.
That's wonderful. It's really very, very nice, very interesting. It's not just a simple new model that you have created. You went into lots of critical thinking over there, and that's wonderful. I want to invite Annabelle maintenant pour vous nous expliquer votre propre méthodologie dans l'enseignement du matériel de réduction du sel et quels sont les outils que vous avez utilisés et comment les étudiants ont réagi envers tout ça.
Oui, absolument. Donc, c'est certain qu'à la Cité aussi, on s'est inspiré du modèle qui avait été fourni par CICan. Donc, on a suivi un peu le même processus. La chose qu'on a ajouté aussi, c'est que nous, au collège, on a dans le fond un modèle pédagogique par compétence. Donc, qui met vraiment l'étudiant au centre de son apprentissage. Donc, c'est un peu ce qu'on a gardé en tête en bâtissant nos ressources puis dans nos modules d'éducation sur la réduction du sodium. Donc, la première chose qu'on avait, c'était un petit questionnaire diagnostique un peu pour que les étudiants puissent se positionner sur ce qu'ils connaissaient déjà. Donc, il arrivait avec quel genre de connaissances dans le cours par rapport au sodium. Donc, le module sur le sodium a été présenté dans le cours qui s'appelle « Principes de nutrition », qui est un cours de première année dans le programme de gestion de la nutrition et des services alimentaires. Donc, pour ceux qui ne sont pas familiers, on forme, dans le fond, les futurs gestionnaires qui vont soit travailler, gérer les cafétérias, gérer les services alimentaires, des soins de longue durée, des milieux hospitaliers. Donc, c'est quand même des gens qu'on doit sensibiliser, surtout par rapport au volet santé de la réduction du sodium. Donc, la première chose, c'est ça, le petit questionnaire diagnostique qui est un peu une vidéo YouTube avec des questions intégrées. Donc, après ça, on avait une activité brise-glace qui était vraiment une discussion qu'on a modérée à travers un logiciel qui s'appelle Padlet. Donc, qui est comme un tableau interactif où les étudiants peuvent partager un peu leurs commentaires ou leurs interventions, puis ça apparaît sur les écrans de tous les étudiants en même temps. Donc, cette portion-là était faite à distance en raison de la pandémie. Donc, c'était une discussion qui permettait aux étudiants d'identifier ce qu'ils connaissent déjà sur le sodium puis ce qu'ils aimeraient apprendre. Donc, ça, c'était la première discussion qu'on avait avec eux. Après ça, on passait vraiment plus au modèle traditionnel où on avait la petite présentation sur le contenu. Donc, c'est quoi le sodium? Où est-ce qu'on le retrouve? Comment est-ce qu'on peut ajouter justement de la saveur à un plat sans nécessairement utiliser du sel pour ajouter les saveurs. Donc, on a vu cette petite composante-là plus traditionnellement là, à l'aide d'une présentation du professeur. Puis par la suite, Le cours de principe de nutrition est un cours qui est offert partiellement en ligne, mais partiellement aussi en laboratoire de cuisine. Donc, par la suite, les étudiants ont pu créer une recette en laboratoire de cuisine. Donc, une recette traditionnelle, c'est des pâtes carbonara. Les étudiants ont ensuite dû utiliser le fichier canadien des éléments nutritifs qui est disponible à travers Santé Canada pour analyser la teneur en sodium de la recette initiale. Puis, ils devaient par la suite faire des recherches pour proposer des substitutions d'ingrédients ou des modifications à la recette pour avoir une recette qui était aussi goûteuse, qui était aussi appétissante, mais qui avait une teneur réduite en sodium. Donc, on leur demandait vraiment de classer les ingrédients sur ce qui était riche en sodium, modéré en sodium ou faible en sodium, puis de faire les substitutions. On a eu quand même une belle rétroaction des étudiants qui ont trouvé les activités très, très intéressantes. Ce qui les a surpris le plus, je dirais, c'est de savoir qu'on retrouvait du sodium naturellement dans des produits comme, par exemple, des légumes. Pour eux, ils s'attendaient que le sodium, on retrouve juste ça dans des produits transformés, dans des produits qu'on classe souvent comme étant un peu moins santé. Par exemple, si on parle comme des charcuteries, des produits transformés. Donc, pour eux, c'était un peu une réalisation de voir que du sodium, on pouvait en avoir, par exemple, dans des carottes, dans des concombres, que ça se retrouvait naturellement dans la terre. Puis aussi de voir que le sodium a un rôle important à jouer dans la santé, mais qu'en excès, c'est là qu'on commence à avoir des problématiques.
Ça, c'est absolument vrai. C'est essentiel d'avoir du sodium dans toutes les activités cellulaires qu'on a, mais un excès de ça, ça va nous rendre trop malades. Merci, Annabelle. Now I want to understand more about the black hat and challenges that you have faced, guys. So I want to invite Andrew to speak about the challenges that we faced. What were the challenges that you faced in during this project, and how we can avoid them in future similar projects? So what's the lesson learned from all that?
I think the first challenge is working with folks that are, first of all, starting where there's some energy and interest in things like this, because it is a change in mindset for some folks. And then general challenges that we would face in any project with a distributed team. So both phases of the project, of both the designing of the curriculum and then the testing of the curriculum, connecting with groups that are in different time zones and sharing collective intelligence and resources, and developing a collective awareness of definitions and things like that. So the same kind of challenges you would normally face in this way in the future. I think just if we put a lot of attention in the beginning to bringing together the groups of folks that are working together and developing those streams so that everybody is using the same language and definitions and sharing resources and regrouping and so on.
I think you guys did a very, very good job, because you brought together all these provinces with all these terminology challenges all together. And that was amazing to see that this is happening and orchestrated by CICan. What the pandemic has added to as challenges into the delivery and the online learning. Sharon, would you like to comment on that?
Sure. I think for everyone, and it wasn't unique to this project, the additional challenges we're working with students often online. And so we were modifying the curriculum, but also we were in process of modifying curriculum to deliver online as well. So student engagement is always a bit of a challenge, but in some ways this actually really provided an opportunity for students to take the time to reflect on the exercise. The sensory evaluation, I think, really added to that for them. They were, doing, the students that I was working with for this pilot, they were doing it at home and really, took the time to explore the flavors and enjoy it.
Yeah, that's like they had only their families as audience, but definitely cooking at larger scales is more challenging for them. But I think this is what we had to do with the pandemic. Annabelle, pouvez-vous ajouter sur l'effet de la pandémie pour la méthodologie du travail et les difficultés?
Oui, c'est certain que de notre côté, ça a eu un impact aussi. On a été choyés à la cité dans le sens où c'était vraiment un cours hybride. Donc, le matériel qui pouvait se livrer à distance, donc la portion peut-être plus théorique, les activités telles que les discussions puis les questionnaires interactifs, on les a faites à distance, donc par vidéoconférence. Mais le volet en cuisine, on a été capable d'avoir les étudiants avec nous dans les laboratoires de cuisine. C'est certain que malheureusement, en raison de la pandémie, on n'a pas pu tester 100% de ce qu'on avait prévu pour ce module-là. Donc, c'est certain que la dernière partie, l'évaluation finale, on aurait aimé avoir un panel de juges qui étaient les enseignants ou des étudiants des programmes d'art culinaire, gestion culinaire pour sensibiliser un plus grand groupe de personnes, puis aussi pour avoir leur expertise du point de vue art culinaire sur le goût des produits qui avaient été faits par les étudiants en gestion de la nutrition, parce que c'est certain que l'emphase n'est pas nécessairement sur la formation culinaire pour ces étudiants-là. Mais là, en raison de la pandémie puis des restrictions de la santé publique, on n'a pas pu avoir des personnes qui n'étaient pas considérées essentielles dans notre salle de classe avec nous. Donc, les étudiants ont dû tester entre eux les recettes puis donner la rétroaction vraiment en équipe entre eux. On a dû se limiter aux équipes justement là, pour limiter les risques de propagation si jamais il y avait eu quelque chose. Mais on a été correct, ça s'est bien passé, on a été chanceux. Mais c'est certain que ça a eu un impact sur l'ampleur qu'on voulait tester le projet, mais on espère pouvoir le faire dans les années futures avec un vrai panel de dégustation de professionnels en art culinaire, gestion culinaire.
Right, that's really very good. I hope next year you guys will have to enjoy teaching these materials with the students in class in the lab. Let's wear the red hat right now and let's learn. You know, I always said that eating is very personal, it's very emotional, and we really, to be successful in any training material we want, we have to have behaviorists with us who will consider more and more like our subconscious, our emotions, etc. So I want to learn a little bit more from Andrew how the emotional aspect of this project has been dealt with, and how, like, what strategies you have implemented to drive change regardless of this big aspects of eating and changing habits.
That's a great question. I would start first of all by saying I was really lucky that the faculty and the students at NSCC were very interested in this. So generally speaking, it was not a massive change, excuse me, for them. We did, in terms of framework, think about it in three really clear ways that I think are important that I would like to share with everybody. The first one is the mindset of folks. So we engaged with faculty and students to open their minds to the possibilities and benefits of reducing added salt in their cooking, and the role that we as food service professionals play in having a positive impact on the health of Canadians. So that mindset was the first phase of that change. The second way was by providing tools to be able to use alternative seasoning approaches. So that means for faculty, the tools are exactly what this project was about, is developing curriculum resources and lesson resources. And then for the students, those tools are in the form of the skills, knowledge, and attitudes that they'll use to approach cooking high quality, flavorful, and healthy food for their customers. Okay. And the third piece is about solidifying the change by developing these learnings into habits. And we do this by ensuring that the skills, knowledge, and attitudes are taught across the entire program, and that they're not delivered in isolation, and that they're not in conflict with other curriculum that the students are learning.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point. And that actually leads me to my last hat, which is the green hat, which is what are the creative means you have provided the students to encourage them, to encourage their consumer to enjoy flavor while reducing salt and sodium in it. So the creative means that we want to refer to. Maybe Sharon can help us understand that better.
Yeah, the creative piece is sort of what draws a lot of people to the culinary industry. And talking to students about using the full spectrum of ingredients, using their creativity, these newly acquired or the skills that they're actually learning, and creating flavor, building flavor, that excitement, that creativity is what really, I think, I found the students connected to in this exercise. And connecting that to their role as a culinary student or a cook or a chef. And the sensory evaluation also was a really big thing. We're constantly trying to teach students to taste as they cook. This is critical in ensuring you're bringing that quality to the final dish. And that idea of bringing tasting, sensory evaluation, and really exploring flavor and their palates is so important. And it really, I think, appeals to that creative side that many of our students are blessed with.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So guys, how can we make sodium reduction a sustained change in restaurants and food services? what do you think we should do? Like, what are next steps that we can do to really embrace and counter, or like to make this change more sustainable? And this question is for the three of you, whoever wants to go first. Like, in your opinion, how really can we make this more sustainable or sustained in our food services?
For me, I think it's actually linking it to how we cook.
Yes.
And that creativity piece and the skills that we're teaching our students, making that connection. So it's more, I think you mentioned earlier about a holistic view of the.
Okay, Annabelle, voulez-vous ajouter?
Oui, je pense que de mon côté, pour que ça soit quelque chose qui dure à long terme, c'est important de l'inclure comme on fait présentement dans l'éducation de nos futurs professionnels. Donc, c'est certain que oui, il faut avoir un impact sur ceux qui sont là présentement, qui jouent un rôle, mais il faut aussi former la relève pour que la tendance suive par la suite, puis que la prévention reste avec le temps, puis que ça devienne quelque chose un peu d'inné, puis que les gens aient besoin d'y penser, donc que ça suive avec nos futurs professionnels, puis ceux qui vont prendre le flambeau par la suite dans l'industrie alimentaire, puis dans les services alimentaires, d'être sensibilisés à ce côté-là, puis à l'importance du sodium.
Ok, c'est très bien. Il y a encore la partie du consommateur. Et Andrew,
Yeah, just I'll add to that. Just like I said before, making it a holistic approach. That alternative ways of seasoning needs to be taught in all of the curriculum in culinary, not just in nutrition class, and it needs to be something that changing that habit of young culinary professionals to not reach for the salt, but look for other ways of adding seasoning to their food.
Yeah, I'm actually really, I'm very happy with this project and this initiative, and also with all the great work that you have done. And I think that you planted the seed of change in the minds of these students and kids, and also the faculty, like other people, like the adults, learners also, who would have also an impact on that. And I see this as a puzzle. Like, everyone has to play a role. Like, I'm sure industry has to play another role over there to make sure that the raw materials are available and healthier. Like we saw with the previous presentation also, we have other means right now to have more healthy food available, etc. So it's we're playing part of that puzzle, and you're doing an enormous and very, very good job on that. And as I said, it's not only a matter of changing one model. No, it's like you created a change, and because it's all across the country, the students will adopt it faster and in better way. So there is like the social norm now became that, yeah, we have to eat less salt and then eventually less sugar, etc., etc. So that's really very, very good. I don't have any other question for you. I just want to congratulate you on all this great job. And I want to pass, je veux passer la parole à Florence pour introduire Patricia, qui va nous présenter sur l'initiative. Thank you so much, guys.
Merci beaucoup, Rima, and thank you everyone for this wonderful conversation. What an amazing example of collaborative and impactful work between colleges and institutes, and we hope that you will all access and adopt the teaching material that was developed as part of this project. I now want to invite Patricia Church, the founder and chair of Salt Free Canada, to share a few remarks, as Patricia has been promoting awareness for sodium reduction for many years, and she's been also championing and supporting the Beyond Salt project since the beginning. So Patricia, over to you.
Thank you. So happy to be here. I'm Patricia Troish, and I am the founder of Salt Free Canada and the Salt Free Challenge, which I started in 2013. I am so pleased to have just heard all the speakers prior to me, and thank you for all the comments and the success of the project. I had waited 7 years for exactly this to happen. And when I started my initiative 7 years ago was based on motivation that I had a member of my family who couldn't have sodium in their diet because it was a chronic illness, and spent my entire life trying to facilitate by creating food that didn't have salt. So what I found out was there wasn't salt in salt-free products in produced food, and you couldn't go to a restaurant to get salt-free options. So I started my own pilot project, which has led to here, which is marvelous. And in 2013, I developed a pilot project to create awareness and the salt-free cooking challenge with the Algonquin culinary class. I wanted them to produce food for an entire evening that would be salt-free, and that they had to use all the steps and understand how to produce flavor without the salt. As you heard in the previous comments from everybody who presented earlier, they went through all the same things that you have done in your pilot project, which is exactly how this one started in the first place, with learning how to create flavor from scratch. And they were so thrilled with this opportunity, and they ran with it. So by 2017, I wanted to take this across Canada because I knew that this pilot project was a success in creating awareness among culinary and nutritional classes. We would start a movement. And so, to not scare anybody off, I had them do the cooking challenge and invited them to create recipes that were salt-free, and it would go into the Cross Canada cookbook. As you see here on the slide, there's the blue and green soiree cooking challenges. That was the beginning of it, and you'll see the smiles on the faces of the people as they engaged with the judges, who helped them understand that they were doing a good job. And by 2017, I joined up with Colleges and Institutes Canada with their support, and we also launched the partnership with Health Canada to take the study across Canada, which you've now developed, and thank you for that. I always felt that education in salt food preparation started in culinary and food services. If you didn't go to the beginning of the grassroots of education, where would you be going? And I thought, if I could teach my 4-year-old to gauge his food outside of home, whether it had sodium or not, why couldn't we teach culinary students that from scratch? And that would be a mindset that we could engrave and use. So I'm very pleased to say that this has been a total success. I congratulate CICan and Health Canada for helping expand my concept, and I'm so happy that the educational curriculum has started. All the things that were said were absolutely true. We need to take social responsibility for our health and wellness, and therefore we need to make sure that we understand what sodium does to our bodies. And I can see that that's taking a forward step, because with high blood pressure costing $22 billion a year just to help cure it, which never cures it actually, in a sense. But if I didn't start locally and go nationally with my concept, this might not become a mindset. And I'm certainly happy to say that I was very well supported from the students when I had sent out the challenge across Canada. All the colleges in Canada participated in the sense that they all responded positively. Could you slide, please? And participated fully and engage their students. And some of the people who presented earlier, Nova Scotia, George Brown, Lesete, all of your students actually entered into the salt-free cookbook and were part of the salt-free challenge, which was amazing. Here you'll see some students who are commenting on how they experimented and found out that they didn't need to have salt as a flavoring, and they could focus on combining different foods to achieve an exciting flavor. That is amazing. So I would like to introduce to you our cookbook, which is coming up in 2021. It's called the Cross Country Canadian Recipe Challenge. It's the collection of those recipes that were created by the different colleges across Canada to be put into this cookbook. And it'll be coming out probably later this summer or so forth. And you can find that on saltfreecanada.ca, and there'll be a few links out there. Some of the things that I would like to add is that most of the students that participated in this had incredible success stories with the pleasure of having the challenge. So I see them going forth into your curriculum change with the positivity of a mindset change, because they have now been instilled that in their youth. And I think that that is going to be a very positive thing. And I'm so pleased to say that this has been a very long waited for project to come to fruition. And I have patience, but I'm very pleased that we are moving forward. I would like to show you the next slide, if I may, which is a salt-free curried cauliflower soup recipe. I invite you to try and try this yourselves at home. It was created by a culinary student, and all the flavors that were put into it were done through reduction basis and herbs. With the plant-based diet and sustainability, I can only see sodium reduction and the use of flavors that doesn't include salt to be the most progressive thing going in. And I'm very happy to say that. I would like you to enjoy the rest of the summit. I'm very excited to hear the rest, and thank you for having me. I've been very patient for 7 years waiting for this to come out, and I'm very pleased with it. So just remember, the last slide, if I may have it up, is supposed to be, the last slide is salt-free doesn't have to mean flavor-free. And that is what I think everybody is going to be happy with in the long run, because our health is most important. Thank you again for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks so much, Patricia. That was really inspiring. Wow. Congratulations on the journey you've been on and on the amazing materials that you're developing and the engagements that you're creating around this issue, which I will admit was not top of my mind, but now I've learned a lot more about how much salt is in things, and that we really do need to, move away from sodium. So I agree with you. It's wonderful to have not only more sustainable meals, but to make them lower in sodium and let the wonderful flavors of the foods themselves come out as we get used to less sodium on our palates. I'd also like to thank Rima, Andrew, Annabelle, and Sharon for your discussion and your sharing of what is an extremely successful collaboration, as you said, across many provinces, across a number of educational institutions, to create a curriculum that can now be used by all of the programs across the country. And we hope this will be just the first of many opportunities to bring our experts from our colleges and institutes and CEGEPs and polytechnics together to co-create even more cutting-edge curriculum that can be used by all, and help us all to improve the way that we eat personally and the way that professionals in the industry prepare food for the rest of us who are lucky enough to enjoy their cuisine. So now we are going to take a short break. Nous allons prendre une petite pause. And during the break, in addition to getting up, stretching, getting yourself a delicious, sustainable, nutritious lunch, if you need, we are going to be showing you a few submissions to our recipe challenge. So we're so pleased that a number of college students have took the time at the rather last minute, just before their finals, to create a little video for us, or an image and a caption of them taking a recipe of their choice and making it more sustainable, more nutritious, and explaining what their thinking was and how they did that. So as you eat perhaps a little bit of lunch or a snack, you can watch these videos created by our students. And then we will return after the break for a fabulous Chef's Table talk show. So, on va avoir une petite pause maintenant de à peu près 10 minutes où vous pourriez aller consommer un petit lunch délicieux, mais aussi nutritif et durable. Et vous allez pouvoir visionner des petites vidéos créées par des étudiants au collégial qui ont pris des recettes de leur choix et les ont modifiées pour être plus nutritifs et plus durables, et nous expliquer leur processus de création, si vous voulez. So we will look forward to seeing you all back at 1:20 p.m. Eastern time, so in 11 minutes. And as I said, you'll be able to watch the videos, and then when you get back, we're going to have a talk show with all chefs and a cooking demonstration with top chef Tania Ganassini. So we look forward to seeing you back here at about 1:20 p.m. Merci beaucoup à tout le monde, et on se verra à peu près 1h20 heure de l'Est. Merci beaucoup.
Hello, my name is Minzu Goin. I'm studying culinary innovation and food technology program in Niagara College. Before I introduce my product, I would like to ask one question to you. Anyone experience about hesitation when you're having chips with some dips like cheap sauce or salsa? Anyone? I did many times. My idea started from this. Also, lots of people have less activity nowadays because of COVID. They're working from home. They're studying from home like me. So now people try to lose their weight and get back their health by having healthy diet, healthy food. My tofu dip contains tofu with some ingredient. I try to make this recipe healthy and delicious, and of course low in sodium. A lot of people knows for sure tofu is really good source of protein and amino acid too. This creaminess of tofu dip goes well with chips because I started from this idea, and I think it goes with vegetable crudité too. Also, you can use it as a salad dressing, but you don't need to put any protein inside because it contains already a lot of protein in it. Is there any dipping sauce? You can dip as much as you want, but without feeling any guilty. Yes, it is. This is the one.
Hello everybody, welcome to our presentation about a healthy, sustainable substitute for milk, almond milk. About us, my name is Thảo Nguyễn and he is my partner Louis Phang. We are both seniors in culinary innovation and food technology at Niagara College. Here we have been trained for 3 years to work professionally in the food industry with knowledge about chemistry and microbiology in food safety regulations, as well as product development. We have been challenged to improve our product by adding nutrition values, enhancing shelf life, and ensuring that our product meets some market trends. The star of our project today is almond milk, which is compatible with trends like plant-based, no sugar added, low sodium, lactose-free, and dairy-free. The addition of vegetable powders also helps to increase the nutrition value in our product. Now, Louis will talk about the addition and recipes.
Thank you, Thảo, for the wonderful introduction. And firstly, I want to say thank you to my friend in Vietnam who is selling homemade nut milk. She reached out to me for helping in research and development on how to enhance the flavor of her nut milk, such as almond, cashew, maca, and walnut, and then create a nutritional fact table for her products. After a while, I feel excited about the project because I started using nut milk in different dairy products such as tea, coffee, and with vegetable powder such as matcha, cocoa, and kale. That is the reason we want to bring this passion to CICan, because we hope to inspire the amazing of nut milk, which are as a healthy, very good product to consume, and this is also a great option for people who have lactose intolerance. The next 40 seconds is a quick simple process on how we have made our almond milk.
Hi, my name is Chang Huang. I'm the last year student of Culinary Innovation and Food Science Technology program at Naga College.
Come up with the idea we want to make something new, something innovation, but familiar with people. We not only want to make it for vegetarians, we want to make it for everyone so people can enjoy that. So that's why we work really hard in the plant-based chicken nugget, try to get the right texture like chicken and perfect flavor. We need a blender, tofu, chickpea, a little bit water chickpea to have for blending. And we have a simple seasoning like pepper, garlic, and onion powder. We don't want to add salt in there because we want to reduce the salt. And we blend. After blending, we mix it with the wheat gluten, the one we prepared before, and mix it until it's set together. After that, we roll it and shape it. I'll add a little bit of the coconut oil in the middle so it adds more moisture, and we wrap it with the foil and it's ready to go. I steam it in 3 hours, take it off, let it cool down in the fridge, and now it's the final product. See how delicious it is, and moisture too. We coating it by the breadcrumb and deep fry. After having the product, we using the HR platform, the one we learned from school, to check the nutrition. And in 111 grams of plant-based chicken nugget, it contains 22 grams of protein, less fat, 3 grams of fiber, low sodium, and no cholesterol. This is our final product. It looks such amazing. I really want to say thanks to my professor, Dr. Amy, Chef Nant, and my amazing partner Michelle Lang to help me create this recipe.
Salut tout le monde. Welcome back. I hope you had a chance to get some delicious food and maybe stretch your legs, get a bit of fresh air if you're in a place where the sun is shining. J'espère que tout le monde a eu la chance de bien manger un peu et vous pouvez bien sûr continuer de grignoter pendant qu'on recommence la session. We've been really entertained and informed by some wonderful students who took time out of their busy schedules at the end of a term. So I would like to heartily and warmly thank the students who submitted to our recipe challenge. Yuko Corbett from the Baking Pre-Employment Program at George Brown College, Minsu Kwan from the Culinary Innovation and Food Technology course at Niagara, Chan Huang, also from the Culinary Innovation and Food Science Tech program at Niagara College, and the dynamic duo of Tao Nguyen and Louis Fan, also from the Culinary Innovation and Food Tech program at Niagara. We really appreciated your creative ways of increasing the nutrition value, the sustainability, and even keeping in mind the sodium factor. And all of you will be receiving in the mail a fabulous cookbook. I have a copy of it myself, a cookbook that was authored and published by none other than the talk show host that will be joining us shortly, Chef Amy Symington. Her cookbook is called The Long Table Cookbook, and you'll be receiving that as a thank you for taking the time to submit something to us today. So now we are moving on to the talk show Chef's Table portion, where we are going to have a demo from Chef Tania Ganassini, but also a talk show with 4 chefs representing very different sectors, if you will, wearing different hats. If we can use the analogy from Rima's panel of all the different colored hats that she had her panelists wear as they answered questions. So we are going to be having some wonderful conversations sprinkled in with the demo that Tania will be doing. So I am going to introduce the talk show host. Je vais maintenant présenter l'hôte de notre programme Table de Chef, la chef Amy Symington. So Chef Amy Symington is a nutrition professor, researcher, and plant-based chef at George Brown College in Toronto. Aside from having a master's in applied human nutrition with a focus on functional foods and their health benefits, Amy has 20 plus years experience in the food industry, including in restaurants, cafes, large quantity and catering, private events and galas, as well as volunteering in community kitchens. Amy is also the Culinary Nutrition Program Coordinator at Gilda's Club Greater Toronto, a not-for-profit cancer organization. And as I mentioned, she is also the author of a recently published cookbook called The Long Table Cookbook. So, Amy, if I can invite you to take the stage. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for that.
Your talk show.
Thank you, Judy, for that wonderful, warm welcome and a healthy-hearted, I should say, welcome to everyone who is joining us today. So welcome to the Chef's Roundtable. As Judy mentioned, I am your host. So we'll be speaking with some of Canada's top chefs in education and the food service industry about what a healthy and sustainable food system can and should look like. So without further ado, I want to say a huge thank you and welcome to our panelists for joining our Chef's Roundtable today. We're beyond excited to have you and your valued expert thoughts on how we should and can have a healthy and sustainable food system. So, chefs, you were asked to join us today because you are not only high caliber chefs, but you are also change makers and health and sustainability leaders in your respective food focused positions. So on the panel today, and chefs, if you can just please give a little wave or a shimmy or whatever you'd like when you hear your name so that those tuning in can put a face to the name. So we have, drum roll please, Lauren Marshall, Top Chef Canada alumni and owner of Real Fake Meats. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So excited to talk to you. We have Carolyn Ishii, who is a creative and curious and playful soul who's passionate about creating change and connection with her food and ideas. She's the creative force behind Zen Kitchen. If any of you live in Toronto, it's a gourmet vegan Whole Foods restaurant. Thank you so much, Caroline, for joining us. See you. Bye. And then we have Davide Del Bracco, Sustainability Manager and Certified True Advisor at Sodexo Canada.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Great to be on this panel. Thanks so much.
Yay. So happy to have you. Okay. And then we have Javier Alarco, Executive Chef at the University of Waterloo, working on farm to campus freshness. Welcome, welcome, Javier.
Welcome.
Lovely to see you. So these will be our panelists for the chef's table component, but we also have a live cooking demonstration that we're going to be doing with Tania Ganassini, who is a Top Chef Canada winner, who will also be joining us. Hi, Tania. Oh, your kitchen looks amazing.
Hi, Tania.
Hello.
Oh, it looks so great. Wonderful. Okay, so we'll put a pin in I'm going to be coming back to our other panelists and asking them some hard-hitting questions. But first, we're going to speak with Tania a little bit about her story, kind of your process for creating recipes, as well as the dish that you're going to be creating for us that is delicious, obviously, but also sustainable and healthy as well. So if you want to tell us a little bit maybe about your background, your story, and then your recipe, and we'll get right into it.
Sure. Well, first of all, it's such an honor to be among such esteemed chefs and people in the food industry, and this is just really fun. And it's weird that we've transitioned to this digital format, but also it's really nice because I get to work with a lot of people that I probably wouldn't have met before. So in terms of my story, well, I started cooking when I was 19 after dropping out of university because I really hated it. It just wasn't for me what I was taking, and I'd actually never considered cooking professionally. I just never thought it was an option, and I'm not really sure why, but it was just never really on my radar. But I was obsessed with the Food Network, like the early days of the Food Network, and my parents would just get upset because I was watching the Food Network nonstop, and it was kind of a habit, but it turned out to be a good habit because obviously it led me to where I am today. So I applied to a kitchen when I was 19, and then I worked my way up through different stations, and I started working in fine dining. And and then I went to culinary school in Italy, that's the inspiration behind what I'm making today, and I'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, I lived in a seaside town, and I trained a Michelin star restaurant in Italy, and of course, changed my life. Basically, travel has kind of been this undercurrent of inspiration for me, and I'm sure a lot of chefs and people watching have felt the same way. It's pretty hard to not be inspired and changed by travel. So that definitely happened to me. And I came back, and I was living in Toronto, moved to Niagara, where I live now. I opened up a plant-based business. My dad had a heart attack, which is actually what inspired me to go plant-based. Here we are. I think that it's so hard to summarize the story, but yeah, that's kind of the summary of my journey. And now, if you want to know what I'm going to make today, it kind of segues perfectly as I was talking about Italy. So I lived in a seaside town called Savona, and I discovered this street food snack called farinata. The French has a similar dish, and it's called soca. So basically, the base of it is chickpea flour, and that's what you can see here. It's a batter. It's a batter made of chickpea flour, essentially, and it gets cooked up in this beautiful cast iron pan in a raging hot oven, in a wood-fired oven, and then you walk out with a steaming hot flatbread that is wrapped in newspaper, and it's just the most delicious, alchemistic thing you've ever had in your entire life. And it's so cheap, and why I made this with sustainability in mind is it's very inexpensive. It's a high source of protein and iron and other micronutrients. And 2 cups of chickpea flour, which is really affordable, makes a large portion that can feed about 6 people. So I think sustainability also is important to consider when we're talking about budget and how far can we stretch things and things that are available in our pantry, things that don't go bad. And then I'm also making because I can't help it. I have this organic farm that I'm obsessed with in Niagara, where I live. And I purchased a whole bunch of their beautiful things, some root veggies, some greens, which we'll get to, and also buying local. I buy directly from the farmer. So to me, that's a very sustainable interaction. And they're also just really sweet people. And I swear to you, the food tastes different when you know where it's grown and who is growing it, and when they're handing that thing to you right after harvesting it. It just tastes different. It feels different. There's something on like a cellular level that just feels right when you do that. So I think that summarizes everything that I'm about to make. Amy, how do you feel about that? Is that sufficient?
I'm pro. I am pro. That was amazing, and I think a little tear came to my eye when you're talking about the handing over of the produce. That I couldn't agree with you more. I grew up on a small farm in southwestern Ontario, growing all our food, and nothing beats it. So and it's definitely in line with the sustainability practices that we want to promote today. So thank you for that. It sounds amazing. I can't wait to see what you come up with, and we'll be checking in back and forth. So I'm going to go. I'll leave you to it, okay. and you can get cooking there, and then we will we'll pop in and check on how things are coming along. But I'm going to go over and ask some, as I said, hard-hitting questions to our other chefs. But we'll be popping back in. Thank you so much for that, and what a lovely, lovely story you have.
Oh, thanks, Amy. I look forward to being surprised by your presence.
Okay, see you in a minute. Okay, so let's pop over. Thank you so much for that, Tania. And we'll, as I said, we'll be checking in on your progress. So we're going to move over to the Chefs Roundtable, where, as I said, we'll be asking our hard-hitting questions. So I did introduce the chefs briefly, but I would love for them to kind of give me their 30-second elevator pitch about, their work or your work, and how, how sustainability kind of plays a part in your work, or, your kind of sustainability and health mantra. We would love to hear about that. So feel free to just chime in, whoever would like to go first, or I can pick someone too. Dowdy.
Yes, Dowdy will go first.
Okay. Yay.
Hi, everybody. Hello, fellow panelists. Nice to meet you virtually. Tania, that's awesome. I love your kitchen. Your story is amazing. I also spent years in Italy. I was a chef in Montalcino for about 5 years, just outside of Siena. Same experiences, especially with chickpeas. I'm so glad you mentioned it. I'm very much involved in health, wellness, the wellness of our communities, our people, especially, I work for a larger corporation, so employee health is quite at the heart of everything we do, whether it's well-being or the look to improve nutrition for our customers, clients, the communities we serve, and especially for the environment. So my role is actually the corporate sustainability manager for Sodexo Canada. I'm a chef by trade. I was at, just like Chef Javier was at a higher education site, one of the universities in Southern Ontario, as a chef in a unit, and I fell into the sustainability role because there is nothing that goes more with local, fresh, responsibly sourced than sustainability. Now my full-time position is sustainable development, including some work I do with Chef Amy and some other colleagues at Humane Society International, where we apply some of those practices and growth for people in professional development and plant-based dining workshops. So just a little bit about myself. I currently live in southeastern Ontario. I'm in Kingston, but I support all of our sites across the country, which are over 200 and so many thousands and thousands of people that we touch every single day. So I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, so happy to have you, Davide. Happy to have your passion and enthusiasm. It's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure to hear your stories and anecdotes, particularly about your kitchen experiences and sustainability. Also, it's a huge factor in your work. I know that for sure. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, anyone else? Caroline, maybe? Would you like to?
Sure, why not? Hi, I'm Caroline Ishii. Third generation Japanese Canadian, born in Toronto, now living in Ottawa, but have traveled a lot around the world. And I love what you both said. It's such a great experience to travel. I'm so honored to be part of the panel with Colleges and Institutes Canada and these great panelists. I resonate with what everybody said in that, yeah, travel and experiencing different cultures is really important. That's been part of my life. I spent the last year in Japan. I was doing, if you'll find out, maybe I have many hats, from being a business developer, food consultant, MBA, and I was an English teacher in Japan in the rural countryside, and I learned a lot about sustainable practices, everything that's traditional, from fermentation to pickling to zero waste communities. It's like so fascinating. So I would have to say what drives me in my life is that I'm a very curious soul. And I've had many different hats and many different lives. I think I was a cat. I have had more than 9 lives. And all about me is about food. I guess what sums me up is the food and connection. I'm really into food, sustainable practices, but also about connection between food, people and food. I believe food has such great ability to connect people through our hearts. And through sharing food we eat. Isn't there an Italian saying, around the table, no one grows old? I love that too. So anyways, I'm happy to be part of the panel and be sharing my enthusiasm with the other panelists, and maybe some lovely insights as well. Thank you, Amy.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much, Caroline, for your passion and your enthusiasm. How inspirational. Awesome. Okay, let's, Javier, what kind of drives you in terms of sustainability, and tell us a little bit more about your work?
Sure, absolutely. So welcome everyone. My name is Javier Alarco, born in Peru, raised in South Etobicoke. I'm a George Brown graduate. I have my CCC, EC. Yeah, a lot of George Brown people out there. I have 30 plus years in the kitchen, and I've had the opportunity to travel all over the world. And in my travels, I've seen, solely because I'm also from Peru, the use of the product, the use of the land, and being able to utilize it to its fullest potential. I've seen the cultural differences between North American dining experiences and the dining experiences from all over the world. So it's great to encompass and contribute some of those aspects into our day-to-day dining. At the University of Waterloo, our team's main focus is to ensure the guests have a positive dining experience. And by doing this, we also have to make sure that we offer the farm to campus fresh. We partake and purchase our produce from the Amira Produce Auction Cooperative, which is a co-op of local farmers. So we utilize our product as much as possible and incorporate all our recipes and menus in that sustainable product and sustainable reasoning. The focuses of primarily allergens and dietary awarenesses. Also, we're soon to be part of the Forward Food Pledge, which is going to be a great contribution to the sustainability project that we're on.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Javier. So I guess I'll be working with you in the future, because I work on the Forward Food team as well. That's awesome. So I'll be looking forward to working closer with you. That's so great. Thank you for that. So we'll turn it over to Lauren.
Hi, so my name's Lauren Marshall. I reside out of Halifax in Nova Scotia. And I've been cooking since 2004 professionally. I've definitely worn the regular chef hat, but these days, in the last 7 years, I hold the plant-based chef, I guess, title, and that's how I'm recognized. Graduate from the Culinary Institute of Canada and PEI. Worked a bit with the Nova Scotia Community Colleges and Andrew Stevens, and a food and nutrition advocate, which brought me to, start wellness retreats and then go from there to begin the company called Real Fake Meats, which is a small business, but with big dreams here in Halifax, Nova Scotia, being the first plant-based butcher out of the Maritimes. So no one's really seen this out here. Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, PEI, Charlottetown. So I kind of am the face behind plant-based protein and meat here in Halifax. So long story short, I won't make it too long, but that is my quick story.
Yeah, I love it. You're just blazing trails over on the East Coast. I love it. So great. Honestly, I've heard so much about your work just from colleagues and on the old social. So it's such a pleasure to meet you in person or virtually. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us and taking time out of your very busy schedule to share your passion with everyone today. So we'll get to the hard-hitting questions. We're going to ask one question, and maybe we'll pop over and see how Tania's doing. So there are compelling reasons to take on the challenge of sustainable food systems and to work towards the Sustainable Development Goals in Canada, given the shifting interest in sustainability and healthier diets amongst consumers. So we know why we want the sustainability factor in our food system. However, with that said, do Canada's commitments to the Sustainability Development Goals, especially number 3, which is good health and well-being, under which Canada has committed to make it easier for Canadians to make healthier choices, does this impact your choices as a chef, educator, business owner in any way? And if no, I mean, who are you listening to that, help you make your decisions in your practice? Is it Canada's Food Guide? Is it, health climate experts? Who are you listening to make these sustainable decisions? Anyone who would like to jump in. I can pick again if you want.
I'll jump in. Javier, please go right ahead, sir.
No. So I was just basically going to say we listen to our client, and our client is the student population on campus. And the young people, and I say young because they're much younger than me, but educated, they know what's happening around the world, and health and sustainability is primarily their main focus, also with their healthy eating habits and their allergens, dietary restrictions. We like to follow exactly what they're saying and make sure that we live up to their expectations, because they will in turn go back into the workforce, and they will be the ones who will be driving the ship, as they say. So definitely the student population.
So I'm gonna get onto the heels of what Javier said. Wonderful explanation. It is the consumers that essentially drive that ship, but we're the ones that steer. As chefs, we want to make sure that we're listening to those vibes, but really people want to get the experience and expand the opportunity to see more. I think the attention span of us, even me, on a social media platform is 20 to 30 seconds these days. And really it gets quicker and quicker all the time. So you really want to make sure that you're getting all those messages out to more and more people. A younger population, absolutely. But what we're seeing, especially globally, I mean, I work for a company that is represented globally. We work in many, many countries. We have commitments globally that are set to the Sustainable Development Goals from France in 2015. We've put those to quantifiable targets. So to achieve those quantifiable targets, we need those consumers to join us and understand that, hey, we want to give you those options. What are you looking for? What's that cultural piece that you're looking for? What is that growth? What do you want to experience brand new? And we understand that it is our culinary professionals, chefs, food service managers. We don't just work in universities. We work in restaurants, work in hotels, work in airports. We go everywhere, healthcare, and we look at what people want, and the way that the diversification of diets means opportunities. People want to know what's out there. If I just keep putting the same things on a menu, as Chef Javier said, you can identify the allergens and inform people that way. But really, people want to open up a new world. So we're doing that with our culinary professionals. We want to understand the experiences globally, at home, in your small towns, maybe in places like Saskatchewan where Saskatoon berries are popular. We want to get that out to people, and we want to make sure that they have the opportunity to experience that. So we're giving our teams the possibility to do that.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Davide. Okay, Caroline, what do you think?
Listening to your audience, but I also really believe you have to listen to yourself and trust your intuition and get ahead of the curve as well. For example, in my case, I introduced a vegan restaurant like 12 years ago when there was no such thing. I couldn't get any funding. People said plant-based is never going to fly. I tried to get funding. I tried to get support. And everybody, what is this crazy thing about local, organic, farmers, and this vegan, they called it. It's never going to go. Like, that's just fatty and hippie-ish and brown and boring and so on. So I really do think you have to go ahead of the curve a bit. And it may be a bit painful at the beginning, but it's a lot about education. So I think I spent most of my time when I first opened up my restaurant about education to people. I would go in there, and I believe about education, and this table is filled with educators. It's about having a non-threatening conversation. It's about saying, Like people would come in and say, I don't know why, they'd admit to me right away, like confession, I'm a meat eater. I said, great, thanks for coming. I really appreciate. I eat meat and fish too. Besides, like I try to eat flexitarian, which I think what most people eat these days, which is plant-based and healthier. But I really appreciated people coming. And I think over time, my audience was first women, because I think, sorry guys, sometimes they get more involved in healthier around to they understand about the importance of taking care of their families and of their bodies. So they were one of my first consumers. But one day there was all men in there. So I think it's really important to trust yourself, your intuition, and be knowledgeable. I went to, one of the best chef schools in the world in New York on plant-based foods. So, and the connection between plant-based, the health, and our health and the environment. So I had that, and then I was able to trust myself, listen to the audience. But it's a bit of both. So I would say it's really being ahead of the curve sometimes in educating people as well.
Amazing. I love that. Thank you, Caroline. Yeah. And so again, just kind of blazing trails. So Lauren, what do you think?
Oh, I'm definitely in large agreement and resonated a lot with what Caroline says. Making big moves, and there was many questions when I opened my business. I even had people write in the newspaper complaining about me and asking me, like telling us to make meat great again and get rid of the vegan butcher. But it's with that kind of awareness that people are watching and people are listening and people are interested, and then they visit you and that's made some big moves. And also knowing that plant-based is becoming the answer, and every year it becomes more clear that we're on the right track. So it is definitely a bit of both. It's definitely caring about nutrition and having that background and knowing what you're doing is the right thing nutritionally as a chef, and then also making the big moves and being ahead of the curve and kind of being the trendsetter and starting the big waves.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. I couldn't agree more. So especially with the education component as well. I mean, and kind of meeting people where they're at, as opposed to preaching down at them about this is how you should be doing this. This is how, this is what sustainability looks like in terms of the future of food. I love all those comments. Okay. Before we hop over to see Tania again, I just want to ask one question. Okay, so it's kind of related to what we were just discussing. How meeting people kind of where they're at. So changing how we eat isn't easy. We're talking about the people coming in and confessing that I'm a carnivore into your restaurant, Caroline. But food is cultural and personal. So how can we change people's minds about food, or better yet, use food to change people's minds? As I mentioned, I like to meet people kind of where they're at, maybe provide them with some sort of education and insight, appeal to their senses through, comfort, stick to your ribs, stodgy, super flavorful food, and then go from there. So what is your kind of approach to helping, I guess, change people's minds using food? Let's go, whoever. Yeah, go.
I'll chime in.
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing with our business at Real Fake Meats is having fun and making food fun. And that could be with many, like all businesses, all restaurants and food businesses, but really plant-based and sustainable food can be really fun. And we just, lighthearted and not making people feel bad for the choices they're making when they're not under your roof, either educationally at school or when they're under the roof of your own business. So, congratulations for being here, and thank you for spending time with us and maybe learning more, because our business, and I think Caroline said the same thing, it's an education. People come in and they kind of want to be educated, and they're coming to you because they feel comfortable and that they feel like you're an expert in the field. So yeah, it's just about having fun and teaching from a fun aspect, I guess, on our side.
Yeah, I love that, because then people, if it's not fun, if you're preachy, if you're saying you should be doing this, it's more about like being approachable, of having
You're absolutely right. It's engagement. That's my biggest thing. And Lauren, your story is the kind of story that I love to tell. That's the engagement piece. The engagement piece gets things out to people. It's a recognizable logo from your local or provincial organization that supports agriculture. In Ontario, it's Foodland Ontario. In Quebec, it's Aliments du Québec. Things like that you see visually, and you try and make those connections and put those stories to the farmers. I'm a big proponent of plants. I live across the street from the local market. And I do buy locally as well. And it's a big part of the whole story piece behind it. It's behind the engagement. I have to engage not only my consumers, but the people that steer that ship, like you said. So Lauren, that story that you tell about, I'm really making waves in Nova Scotia with a plant-based piece. It's not just about the plant-based piece. It's also about, hey, today we were talking about sodium reduction. Yes, it's that nutrition end to it. I have to admit, I'm not an expert in nutrition. I do look to colleagues and stakeholders for that dietary component of things I don't understand. But I also like to engage and let that be shared to other people. So it's the stories that really make it. It's going to make a difference between a community relationship, one of those cultural diversity pieces that you can understand the story behind things. When I lived in Europe, it was all about responsible sourcing. It was, how far does that food come from? Do you know the farmer that grew it? Traceability. This is a big piece of growing business. And you know what? Everything, and I'm going to put on my sustainability hat here, everything that talks about responsible sourcing has an effect on combating GHG emissions into our air. And better air quality means better health, better ability to grow plants, and have a biodiverse growing system. It's all intertwined, and I'm sorry, but the sustainability piece is way too large.
Yeah, we could have an entire 2-hour panel on the sustainability factor alone. And I like that too. I guess part of it is utilizing that to educate people. How do we do so? I mean, utilizing food. What are some of the ways that we can take those things and put them into practice, but then make it appealing to the masses so that they actually want to change their food habits. Javier, do you have anything to say about that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's so many food trends right now that you go online and there's blogs, there's videos. We as chefs should be, really focusing on better eating, how to utilize leftovers, sustainability wise. We as chefs, we can open the fridge and make a meal. The average person will say, well, I need to buy certain items and certain specs and follow the recipe, or we can be more to utilizing from root to stem, as they say, the whole product. So utilizing the Canada's Food Guide, this new Canada's Food Guide, showcasing it to the general public when they go into supermarkets, stores, eating establishments, have screens up there with chefs creating food that normally you may not see, that you can buy, which is right in front of you, whether it's broccoli, eggplant, and zucchini. Make a nice Italian stir fry, and you can use the stem to utilize to soups or add into your stir fry. Just little things, tricks of the trade that we all know, but are taken for granted sometimes. Yeah.
Amazing. I love that. And again, the education piece. And I love the root to stem. That is amazing. So using that broccoli stem, don't throw that away. Things like that, little tips, and providing again, the masses with that knowledge and that education. I love that. And I love the signs up in maybe the grocery store, that sort of thing. Again, it's education for sure. Amazing. Caroline, do you have anything to add?
Yes, of course.
Of course you do.
Well, from my experience at the restaurant and opening one of the first vegan fine dining restaurants in Canada, being the first vegan chef on Gold Medal plates, I would say that it has to be your taste buds. First of all, people eat with their senses, so it has to look good, but it has to be delicious as well. In the end of the day, it's how it tastes. It doesn't matter. The critics used to always say my food was like the highest level, but why couldn't anything, whether it's Puerto Rican food or Chilean food or vegan food, why can't it be at the highest levels? Why does it have to be that I always say that it gave vegan food a makeover. People used to think it was brown, mushy, hard, and it was sometimes, but it's sort of like I took it and gave it a facelift and made it sexy and appealing and sophisticated. So I really do think the food has to be delicious. When I started the restaurant, I did no advertising, no promotions. People just buzzed about it. And now on social, there was no social media then. Now, if something tastes good and looks good, you're going to get followers, no problem. What do people talk about? They love talking about food anywhere you go. Your friends, what is the latest place? Oh my gosh, that's so good. And I love that people would buzz about my food. They'll say, how does she make cream without cream? How does she do this without that? That is the conversation I think we need to have. That gets people so excited about food.
Amazing. I love it. Oh, I wish we could all just hop over to your restaurant right now. Oh, that'd be so great. Okay, Lauren, do you have anything to add in terms of how we change people's minds? I mean, what Caroline says resonates with me. That's honestly, I always say taste. Some people say taste is king. I say taste is queen. It makes the most difference. And food is just food, right? It's as long as it tastes good. Hey, it also happens to be sustainable. Hey, it also happens to be plant-based and better for you. That's how I generally roll. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think my whole rule of thumb, at least under the umbrella of real fake meats, has always just been like, take something that people are used to seeing, like your regular hamburger or your vegan donair in Halifax or your donair in Halifax, and then maybe create a similar look, make it vegan, be chef inspired, so make things taste good, and you really can attract a lot of people and make people talk. And I think it goes just back to that, like if something looks amazing and tastes great, it doesn't, it's going to make a bigger impact knowing that it's healthier, that it's more sustainable. So just the visual, getting someone excited about a visual and then kind of going, do you know that's vegan? Or do you know that's like a healthier option? Or do you know that has more protein than what you would get at the pizza corner around the street where you don't know where that donair meat came from or something like that. So it is a good educational standpoint, just get people talking.
Oh, I love it. All amazing, amazing points. With that said, we're talking about food. We're talking about tasty, trying to change people's minds with our taste buds. Let's turn it over to Tania and see how she's doing in the kitchen. Hi, how are you doing? Oh, I think we're muted. Oh no. She's whisking.
You'll have to subtitles in there.
Love the rosemary.
It looks like it's going well. We can't hear you. You're on mute right now. It's the story of pandemic life. You're on mute. You're on mute. Oh, are we able to fix that on our side?
Hi, Phil?
Yay!
There we go.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
that's so weird. It didn't say I was on mute, but there you have it. Yeah, pandemic life. I hear you, Amy. I really like the play-by-play that you guys were giving. I think we should just do that the whole time. So, okay, well, basically I want to save this for the actual interaction part. So I made the farinata batter. This has to sit for 4 hours. So this is something that you can do overnight. But again, like I said, 2 cups of chickpea flour, 3 cups of water, a little bit of salt if you want to use salt, if you can omit it, a little bit of granulated garlic or chopped garlic if you want. And then I have a very generously greased, also very generously used sheet tray here. We all have those. Yeah, exactly. Loved. Yeah, we all have those sheet trays that, have been around. So I'm just going to pour my batter. I'm not even preheating the sheet tray.
Noted.
And I'm just pouring the batter in, and then I'm going to coax a little bit of the olive oil into the batter itself, but I do want a lot of it to be on the edges so that I get a really, really crispy exterior. My oven is at 450, so really super hot. And then just going to put a little bit of fresh rosemary from a little plant.
Beautiful. Oh, so aromatic.
I know, it's the best. If you can't, if you don't have a local farm, maybe you can try growing some. I'm not talking to you chefs. I'm talking to like the people who are watching. Don't tell me to grow. I know I'm growing. I almost swore there. Oh my goodness.
That's okay. We can edit it out. I don't know if we can.
Okay. Can we? Well, I'll have to watch my kitchen from now on. And then that's it. So I sprinkle it with rosemary, and then I'm going to chuck it in my 450 oven. So
beautiful. Oh,
sorry to be rude and turn my back to you here for a minute.
No worries. Get it in there.
And I do have one that I baked off earlier. The magic of television.
Beautiful.
It's really, it's golden. And oh, wow, I know, can you believe? I just turned around and it was done. So I'm now going to make a little plant-based ricotta, and I don't want to take up too much of your panel's time.
Oh, gosh.
You want a 30-second plant-based ricotta?
Yes, you do. Yes,
okay.
I think. Yeah.
Okay, great. So I usually make it with almonds and cauliflower, but today I wanted to keep it really, really simple. And again, this is very sustainable. It's locally sourced tofu. It's organic and sprouted. I have nutritional yeast, some basil, a little bit of, this is actually sauerkraut brine. I like the lactobacillus, that funky fermented flavor from that. And you can add salt if you want, or you can omit if you do not want. A little garlic. This is totally a playground for flavor, whatever you want. And gonna make some noise here. And I also emulsifate it with a little bit of olive oil. And that is the fastest, easiest ricotta, and it's way cheaper, way more sustainable. You know, not to diss a good cow's milk ricotta, but I think this kind of hits all the bases. And a thing of ricotta is like $9. This is like $4.50 for the whole thing. So some good savings, and it's very delicious. And I'm going to get to prepping some more stuff, but
okay,
I'll send it back your way.
Yeah, we'll leave you to it. Amazing. I love that. And I love you're kind of practically applying some of the low sodium techniques that they used this morning, which is awesome. Utilizing things like, I love the sauerkraut brine. Utilizing, you know, all that sort of stuff. So like fresh herbs, garlic, that sort of thing, and really using that to give an oomph of flavor without added salt, which is fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thanks, Amy.
You're welcome. We'll let you get to it.
Alrighty.
Okay, brilliant. All right, back to the hard-hitting questions. So this one's really simple, straightforward, but the question itself is simple and straightforward, but the answer might be a little bit more complex. So what do you think, in your expert opinions, what are the big changes that you see coming in the next 5 years? Let's start with, we'll go with Javier. Would you like to start us off?
Sure, absolutely. Again, I'm going to go back to the student population, the growth, the future. So there's a good and the bad side. Right now we're in COVID, so everyone is in their kitchen, everyone is utilizing local product, everyone is doing their bit to help the world and the global education. But then eventually COVID's going to end, and unfortunately people are going to get back to their busy lives and their lifestyles, and will slowly lend itself to going back to their habits of purchasing either a processed quasi-healthy food or worse, even fast food. And the benefits that they've probably done in the last year and probably into the next year, not knowing the future, it's going to be the change of eating habits. You know, eating the restaurant food, which is good. I'm referring more to fast food. I'm not referring to fine dining or educated chefs doing what they do, but more to producing your product at home and all of a sudden stop producing your product. And then when I was referring to earlier about videos, everyone's making breads, which are fabulous, but the nutritional value is a little bit different than imagine doing your center of the plate product, sustainable, healthy, and nutritional. So I think the change is definitely going to be a plus because of the younger generation and what their needs and their focuses are, but also the negative is going to be for other individuals that unfortunately may not have the time anymore to play in the kitchen and have to rely on
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for bringing up the divide, because it could, it can go one way or the other in terms of learning the skill set. Some are fortunate enough to work at home, so they have the additional time to actually prepare things thoughtfully in the kitchen, and then some, maybe they don't have any childcare, or they're working XYZ number of jobs, and they don't have that additional time to play with. So we really have to be cognizant of that when we're thinking about our food system and how the changes can be made, essentially. Okay, Davide, what do you have to say about what's happening in the next 5 years? Do you think your prediction?
So you mentioned food systems, and that's exactly what is. We're not on the verge of anything monumental. We are in the middle of something monumental. Our food systems are not able to support our traditional ways of growing. Are not able to support our traditional ways of eating. The more we invest into our only 6 resources of food, most of them come from animal proteins. So that biodiversity is absolutely important. We're driven by consumerism, and that consumerism is starting to push the need for diversification. Why? Because many manufacturers, many companies, small and large, are finding more and more difficulty to sell things because it's more expensive to sell it. Whereas as you diversify and make that agricultural system, which is beginning to fail, a little bit better at managing costs, at managing offers, and I'm telling you, I deal with manufacturing partners and producers and vendors all across the country and globally, and there is always this move, this shift to making things a little bit more sustainably sourced and a little bit more sustainably offered. So there's, maybe there are those ideas where you're replacing that traditionally appreciated burger with something that is a plant-based version of a burger, or completely reinventing something and making your vegetables the star of the show. I think we were at a workshop, Amy, yesterday, and we talked about this, and it's not about making your meat, your veg, your starch. It's Canada's Food Guide just says, hey, let's just load it with vegetables and fruits. I sure have the right amount of starches. If you have some animal proteins or non-animal proteins, okay, but let's focus on making those proteins a little bit less of the star of the show. Vegetables can be so much the star of the show. And legumes, pulses. Like, we're just hitting the tip of the iceberg, but the shift is already happening. Yeah. It's happening through many different sectors. Javier has that experience with younger generation. Carolyn has been one of the founders in this space of making sure that area is great. And of course, Lauren, you're pushing that through, and it's getting to the market beyond the 18 to 20-year-olds. I'm seeing this shift in current professionals in the corporate services sector. I'm seeing this shift also in healthcare centers and long-term care areas. So really, it's permeating a lot of different generations here. That's the pulse to be staying on. So in 3 to 5 years, I'm going to see that continuing to grow and looking to support that. So colleagues, please, let's get this out there.
Amazing. Thank you for that insight. So thoughtful and insightful. Amazing. And I'm so happy to hear that that's the case, because that's what we want to do. We want to be pushing that envelope, focusing on foods that are lower on the food chain, which, as we heard this morning from that wonderful presentation from Rihanna about how we do want to be focusing more on a plant-based or plant-forward menu and putting vegetables kind of at the center of the plate. Awesome. Anyone else Lauren, do you want to comment on what's happening in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, I look at it from a restaurant or food business owner perspective. Obviously, yes. That's where my mind is always 100% of the time. But looking at, I'm only 2.5 years into business with Real Fake Meats, and looking at numbers from year 1 to year 2, it's only growing. I don't own a restaurant. I don't have, and I know this is another topic, but I don't have the problems that restaurants have been facing right now, because I don't have a seated restaurant situation, but I am in food sales, small scale. Obviously, I have a small store, but it's only growing. So every year more and more people are choosing plant-based. And so there's going to be more and more people in this industry that we're in within the plant-based movement, and it's only growing. And then within restaurants and food business, we're going to see not just one option, the tofu with the vegetables on a bed of like a curry or something. We're going to see menus that are more 50-50 and things like that. So that's being the forefront or the star of the menu potentially being plant-based dishes. Not that potentially all meat and seafood is going to go away, but people are learning a lot, and educational movies and documentaries are coming out. And these facts are true. So we're going to see plant-based being the star of many menus that may have never had that in the past. So I think it's an interesting time, and we're only seeing, I'm going by my numbers, but numbers growing every year for what people are purchasing and what people are buying, and it's more plant-based. Half of our customers that come in our store, I swear it's the same thing. They come in every day and they're like, "It is my first time here," you know, and that's every day. That's the conversation that we're having. We're welcoming half of the people that are coming through our store as new customers and new people to plant-based and looking for help and information and so on and so forth. So it's just growing. That's it.
I love it. And you're on the forefront of it, and you're pushing the envelope. I love it. And I can't wait to be that person that comes into your store and say, "It's my first time here."
Streamers come down. We all celebrate.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to move to the next question. I have, there is a question from the audience that I'm going to incorporate in my next question. They kind of go really well together. So what is your best advice? We're talking about inspiring the next generation kind of thing, or helping to further push that envelope. What is your best advice for chefs, culinary professionals who are just starting their career now? What do you think the job opportunities are out there? And what do you think they really need to know? Specifically, how do we produce more chefs like you? It's a lot to unpack, but feel free to pick apart any of those questions. Caroline, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
I hope there's nobody else like me. Oh my gosh.
Oh, no, there's no one like you. Of course.
There's only one of you. And that's what the message I would say to culinary professionals. like, don't underestimate how unique you are, interesting, and embrace your backgrounds and be curious. Like, whether you're, for me, the Japanese Canadian part was probably the strongest part that came through, and that people love the most, that I'm able to create amazing traditional Japanese food, but also blend it with other things. Like, for example, I've been creating this food line, and I've been creating these bento boxes, and people are crazy about bentos and all sorts of matcha and everything. But I would say embrace who you are, bring that out, your unique offering. You're not like, yes, you're doing a culinary program and everybody's the same, but you really, in this marketplace, people are looking for differences, and it's your chance to shine. So use that, learn everything you can about your grandmother's cooking. Believe me, people will love that. In the end of the day, what people love is comfort food, as Amy said, and people really resonated. There's something in your heart that you can't replicate from your grandmother's cooking, and you don't know why. And I believe it's love, that there's something in it. So learn what you can about your background. Be curious about food. I find a lot of cooks would come into my kitchen and they wouldn't have big palates. What I mean by that is that they would just eat the same old. So try different things. Be curious. That is going to make you a really interesting individual, and love your life a lot more than just going to the path and wondering how you can copy somebody else, be like somebody else. And you really have to own who you are. That's what I would say.
Oh, I love that so much. I want to figure out how to put that into like a greeting card somehow.
Greeting cards, that's a good idea.
Yeah. I know all the trends on social right now is inspirational quotes, and I think you really there's some really gems of good advice in there, Caroline. Thank you so much. Yeah. Anytime anyone mentions my grandmother's cooking, I just get a little verklempt. Right? Anyone else want to join in on that? What do you think? What are some job opportunities for emerging chefs? What should they need to know, and how do we make more of you?
All right. I don't know about making more of me necessarily.
I don't know about you.
I hardly cook anymore, but what jobs are there? I'm going to tell you from personal experience. I was a chef in restaurants in Toronto growing up. Moved away to Europe. I was a chef in a beautiful spot, Jewel of Italy. Came right back. I joined a absolutely different mindset within the food service industry, and did more of an institutional cooking, but learned a lot of systems. And I learned a lot of that structure and that resourcing and learning committees and just being part of something. And now I'm a sustainability manager. So the opportunities to go in different directions are just based on your experiences. So get as many experiences as you can in what you're interested in. I was interested personally in food systems and, of course, sustainability. So that's where I find myself today. I'm not young anymore as once I was. So I took advantage of those days where I had that opportunity to really reach out beyond my comfort area. I understand the biggest piece is putting your own personal stamp on it, and I absolutely agree 100%. I always put my personal stamp on everything, but it's situations like this where we're sitting around at a round table. These roundtable discussions, workshops, collaborative sessions, committees, these are available in droves, and they have been more and more over the past year, to everyone. So you can be part of something and put in your stamp, because everybody's looking for your viewpoint. I am looking to understand Lauren, Chef Javier, Chef Lauren, Chef Amy, Chef Caroline. I'm looking to understand their viewpoint because it will help me to learn where I haven't experienced yet. I was having this conversation with one of our executive chefs in our education sector, and we were looking at, okay, what are we looking for when we're hiring? We're a big company. We hire for restaurants and universities and hospitals and all kinds of stuff like that. We have that availability, but what do we look for? Team leadership, team understanding, team goal building, knowledge, but willingness to learn. That's what you need. You need that knowledge. You're going to get that experience. You're going to get that that part where you have to be creative and put your stamp on things. But you're also going to have to get the resources to understand how to handle raw material costs, because your teams are going to help you with that. How to handle menu design, because people are going to help you with that.
Yeah.
So be open, join groups, fuel that interest, and of course, resource.
Amazing. I love how you said that. So one of my mentors in culinary school said something very similar. There are things that can be taught, and there are things that can't be taught as a chef. And leadership skills is one thing that oftentimes can't be taught. So it's good. It's good to have those for sure. Okay, Lauren.
I think the biggest takeaway is, when I started my career as a chef, I didn't think I'd be sitting here right now talking about plant-based meats, proteins, that sort of thing. So there are many skills that I had to acquire without being formally taught them. So just under the real fake meats world, there's jobs that you aren't in maybe some schools, yes, but you aren't really learning and being taught, like our seitan chef, the primary wheat gluten that we use to make 10 to 12 of our different meats. The students aren't coming out of regular culinary school with like, oh yeah, I'd like to do that. I really enjoyed that in school. We're learning new skills, and there are new areas that you can work in in the culinary world. So kind of being open for change and learning really new techniques that may be
untraditional,
more of a regular job in the coming years. So when I go for hiring somebody under that job, I'm not looking for people that have experience. I'm looking for people that are willing to learn and just having that open mind and that willingness to learn and pivot your career if this is something you're interested in, because it may not be what you thought you were going to be doing with your culinary career, and you may end up be doing some really interesting new things, and just willing to learn and take on something like that is key. So yeah.
Amazing. Thank you for that, Lauren. That was great. Yeah, and mentioning the CICan, not traditional culinary schools, teaching you how to make that. I have to give a shout out to GBC. Like 4 years ago, I developed a curriculum that was exclusively plant-based, and it was a bit risky at the time, but now it's something that is predominant. And we did a seitan recipe, so those students did know how to make seitan coming out of school, but it was something that was not common. They're like, Chef Amy, what is this?
Yeah, and of course schools are teaching that, but yeah, willingness to learn new skills is awesome.
So important, so important, amazing. Okay, any other thoughts on job opportunities or things that chefs should know, or how we make more of you?
Well, sorry, can I just say something?
Please.
I would say what's really important, which I didn't realize in culinary school, that staging is really important, especially after COVID. I'm hoping that you can go into most chefs' kitchens and learn. So just see what's going on by staging and interning. So that was part of my culinary program, but I really recommend that. Even in COVID times, you can have discussions with other chefs or people cooking in other areas to learn. As everybody said here, it's great what you learn in your culinary institutions, but it's also great what you can learn outside. And what people are looking for, I think, in hiring people is what they can bring, their openness to learning, their willingness to take on new challenges, to be out of their comfort zone and also fail. I said there's nothing wrong with failing. And I wish we would learn that more earlier, that it's okay to make mistakes. That's how you learn and grow. And the other thing I would say is cross-functional has been really valuable to me. What that means is, besides culinary, it's learning other skills that are going to be really good for you if you open up your own business and you go and if you go into somewhere like Sodexo or the colleges, is that financials, logistics, administration. That might seem a bit boring to people. I know when it's like, oh, you're going to have to learn administration if you're going to be a chef, but ask any head chef and they'll tell you they spent a lot of time in administration, logistics, and planning, and that's a really vital skill for anybody that's hiring you especially at a senior level. So anyways, I would say cross-function is great. Even whatever it is, learn it. Whether you play jazz music and that's going to teach you how to be good at improvising. And one of the things in chef skills that's really vital is improvisation and troubleshooting. That is the vital skill. The things go wrong all the time in a restaurant, hotel. You need to know how to quickly in a business, I'm sure, Lauren, quickly get back on track. So anyways, that's my 2 cents I wanted to share.
I love it. Wise words. Thank you, Caroline. And thank you for those thoughtful answers to that question. So we're going to hop back to Chef Tania and see what's happening in the kitchen.
Hello. Can you hear me this time?
I can hear you loud and clear. Amazing.
Okay,
How goes it?
It's going very well. It's very soothing to cook and listen to all of the inspiring words. I relate to so much of it. I really loved it. Loved all of it.
Amazing. And you were a trailblazer too. I mean, Top Chef Canada, you were you were really the only plant-based chef, and you did a lot of your dishes were plant-based, and you really brought your game, right? Like you really brought plant-based cuisine to the nth degree.
Thank you. I was a little bit scared, but I couldn't imagine doing it any other way. And I guess to echo Caroline's sentiment about leaning into you, and I actually wish I did that even more, to be honest. I feel like that advice never fails, no matter where you are in life.
I love it. What are you doing? What are you doing there?
I'm making a salad. Perfect segue. So these are all including these beautiful watermelon radishes and these lettuces. These are all from that farm I was telling you about. The farm is called Omi, by the way. If anyone lives in Niagara or visits Niagara, they do a weekly farm box. And what I love, and this I find is also kind of a pillar of sustainability, is the farmer grows and then you cook what the farmer gives you. And so you're getting more biodiverse diet. They're able to grow more diverse species and plants on their farm. And they're sort of creating a demand for things that I probably wouldn't I mean, we would because we're in the industry, but like the average person probably wouldn't pick up, heirloom carrots or watermelon radish in the grocery store.
Exactly. Yeah.
But when you have them at your fingertips, and you know where it's coming from, it just is so inspiring to cook with. So basically, this salad is a love letter to my favorite farmers.
Oh,
I love that. Emotional.
Yeah. Cooking's emotional. It looks
really
so
is.
beautiful. It looks so
Thank
beautiful.
You. So basically just a bunch of shaved root vegetables, watermelon radishes. These, I thought it was too soon, but they're my farm, my favorite. They're mine. They're mine now. That farm. They started growing edible flowers. They've had them basically all winter. So I've got like pansies, dianthus. What else do I have? Bachelor buttons, a whole bunch of different, probably like 10 varieties, and they all taste a bit different. So it was actually a fun adventure to go and taste all of them, see how they do with the rest of the ingredients in here. But yeah, flowers aren't just beautiful, like they taste amazing. And then of course they have lots of micronutrients because of their colors and and antioxidants, exactly. Mm-hmm. And some roasted fennel. Now this isn't from my farm, but I just love roasted fennel. Isn't it just the most, I know, it's so delicious. And I just roasted it with a little bit of olive oil and some fennel seed that I ground in a mortar and pestle. And I have some little snap peas, just trying to keep it fresh and spring-like. And then I also added in a whole bunch of fresh herbs. I love adding fresh herbs like a leaf, like as if I'm adding arugula or something, like handfuls. There's tons of dill and tarragon. Isn't it the best?
It's so good. I always talk about the vegetables that you should be consuming every day: red, cruciferous, orange, leafy greens, and leafy greens can include all the herbs, right? They contain all the same nutrients, folate, iron, fiber, obviously as well, that leafy greens do, and they add an oomph of flavor with, again, added salt, sugar, or unhealthy fats. So I love how you're using all those beautiful, bright ingredients, literally eating the rainbow today. It looks so incredible. Thank you so much for your efforts.
Oh, thank you.
Tell us a little bit about your dressing. What's happening there?
This is raw maple that's from a local maple farm. Shallot, a little bit of chive. I'm going to show my back for a minute, but I have to because I have to show you these beautiful chives that came from my farm.
Worth it. Oh, beautiful.
This is kind of like a maple and allium vinaigrette. So like a bunch of different alliums in here and then a little olive oil, Dijon mustard to emulsify. And I love shallots and vinaigrette. It's like a secret little flavor enhancer, again, to echo the theme of cutting salt, which is actually something that this whole thing has inspired me to really be more cognizant of, because my dad has heart disease, as I said, and in the restaurant industry, we salt, like we're taught to really overseason and season so heavily, and then you get into a habit where you start doing that in your regular life as well, and it's a slippery slope of salt. But these are maple candied pecans, by the way. So literally just what's that?
The same maple syrup that you were using?
Yes, exactly. And I just toasted them in the pan, add the maple, and then stir it until I want it to crystallize, and because I like the texture. And that's literally it. And then I top my salad with that. And this is going to be kind of like the side accompaniment to the farinata, which is almost out of the oven, which I'll be able to show you guys soon.
Okay.
Probably on the next visit, I suppose.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we'll do that. I have one more question for the chefs, and then we'll pop back over, okay? Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
It looks gorgeous. I can't wait to see the rest of it. Okay, let's go back over to the chefs, the other chefs. We're all chefs here. This is great. Okay, so just being cognizant of time here. I have a couple questions. Just want to check in and see if we have time for one or two questions. I know I have one more question for sure. Okay, let's do it. We'll just do it. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to go for it. So we've discussed sustainability. So we're doing two questions. We've discussed sustainability, so we can't ignore, of course, the type of cuisine that is most sustainable, and that includes plant-based or vegan. So with that said, what is the biggest challenge you have had creating plant-based dishes? So personally, my challenge hasn't been making it tasty, stodgy, stick to your ribs, amazing. My challenge has been the stigma or the negative connotations that tend to surround the word or the classification. What has been your biggest challenge creating, vegan or plant-based cuisine? Lauren, I'm going to throw it to you first.
So I would have to say, like, just the development of the dish, the recipe testing is for me, or for us, has always been the largest challenge. Because I have many ideas, and to try to make those come to light is the hardest part. I think most chefs can agree that we kind of go to bed dreaming about food, and we wake up the same way. We just wake up hungry and wanting to create new things all the time. But the biggest challenge under the Real Fake Meats world for me has been the creation of the recipes, getting our customers excited, coming up with new ideas. Different seasons bring on different challenges or exciting things. And when we're making everything from scratch, also using real food, whole foods, and making it healthy, and then making it easy I sell products, so making it easy for my customer to buy that and then make it at home or reheat it at home has been a big one. And I think just going back in time, knowing that I needed to create a chicken recipe. And I saw that lovely culinary student create that, and I said, well, that's like very similar to like what I create in shops in much larger batches. But trying to figure things out and make it taste good and also look appealing, because sometimes it could taste good, but then it doesn't look so good, and it's a lot of back and forth. So I think, one of the biggest challenges has always been just testing a recipe. Then we're in a food production kind of mindset at Real Fake Meats. So I came from the chef culinary world where you're making little bits of everything every 2 days, and now we're making large batches. So I have this great recipe that yields four pieces of bacon, but I need to make 1,000 pieces of bacon. So just learning kind of in a food production facility, mine has always been the hardest, going from chef mind to that and testing recipes and making them taste good.
Yeah. That's so true. Exactly that. Like something that's really tasty and easy to make, small scale, isn't necessarily translatable to large quantity cooking. And so having to keep wearing that hat, and then having to think about the production and making, obviously you still want that thought and inspiration to go into the dish, but you need it to be practical as well. Yeah.
Like with our chicken, we use the local organic tofu from our area, and the soybeans come from PEI, and the facility is here in Nova Scotia. It was recently purchased by new business owners, but when I was first trying to get my hands on this tofu, they were really overwhelmed with the amounts that I wanted to buy from them. So, overwhelming the producer, and wanting to support local and your community and keeping products as sustainable as possible. But I remember the first conversation with the previous owners, because everything with the tofu in this company was made by hand in really small batches, I think on a farm. So creating that demand and going, okay, I think I can handle it. But, you're really working closely with a lot of other people when you're thinking about food production. So overwhelming the tofu producers was the first hurdle, right?
I love that. Okay, Caroline, what do you have to say?
Oh my gosh, there's so much to say, but I would say, okay, what was the question again? I got so absorbed by it.
What's your biggest challenge? What was your biggest challenge making vegan food?
So the vegan food I mentioned already before, that was like before vegan, the word was even mainstream, and plant-based. There was no such word as plant-based, I don't think, about 12 years ago. So that was thing. And I guess the expense is the huge one, because when you're using whole foods, like I hear from Lauren too, which is people didn't even know what whole foods were when I was creating it. So organic, local, source, there's an expense to that. And people didn't want, they would be placing your Whole Foods thing against something else of the same quality, and it's much more expensive to create it. So it's actually trying to provide that offering at around the same price, but your costs are much more expensive. The other thing I would say, time is money. So it takes time to produce whole foods products, because everything in the restaurant had to be made from scratch. We couldn't buy anything because we couldn't guarantee that they were whole foods. There was no chemicals, additive, preservatives. We couldn't confirm that they were vegan. So we had to make everything: ketchup, Worcester sauce, everything was scratch. This was the day before there was the internet on this. We just had to research and test it all the time. So it's time to create. I just want to say a short story. It was funny. At that time, I got invited by Ontario Tourism to go with, I won't say what chef it is, but a well-known chef to New York. And we were both going to showcase our things. And I had a plant-based food I was going to showcase to media. And he was going to do his meat and so on to media. Well, he just vacuum packed his stuff. He brought it, took it out, and he went to party the whole weekend and came back 30 minutes before and did it. Me, I was there. Maybe that's my work ethic. Was there all weekend preparing my food, because I brought some stuff, but I had to cut it and marinate it and pickle it. And I was there 3 days. I said, he's probably the smarter one because he got to party for 3 days. But to show you, I wouldn't have it any other way. But Whole Foods takes time, because you're starting from raw ingredients, and that's why it tastes so good. That's why it's so good for you. People can feel and taste the difference, but there's a cost to that. I would say there is always a cost. I spend so much time. When chefs see me cook, they said, I would never have the patience to cook like you do. And I said, I would not do it any other way. I cannot, in my integrity, cook any other way than from the heart and with raw ingredients. There you go.
Amazing. I love that. I love that story as well. I feel like we're kindred spirits in some way.
We are.
Oh, amazing. Anyone else? What are some trials and tribulations you've had, or challenges that you've had with plant-based cuisine?
Well, I can chime in on that. Great points. It's availability of products that you really want to use has been the biggest challenge lately. The biggest open window or open door has been the willingness from people who make big decisions in important places, executive chefs and all the management teams and all that. They've really grouped together and said, okay, this is something we all feel strongly about, and know that there is so much more toward health and nutrition. There's so much more to people understanding good food, delicious new offerings. But we really want our producers to be able to produce at that level that makes it go everywhere, so that our products are available to these creators to make something that's just mind-blowing all the time. I've had 35 chefs recently doing a plant-based workshop with Humane Society International, alongside of developing an all plant-based food offer platform, and it's going on to quite a bit. And these guys and women and people and chefs and everybody's just so involved in these conversations. They're creating these amazing dishes, these amazing products, and they want more. They want more. Let's get them more. Let's get that name out there. Let's get those people creating those beautiful, beautiful things. So there's a bit of a challenge getting, that product to make that.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, Davide. That was great. Yeah, and I've firsthand seen some of the incredible plant-based dishes that the chefs have created, and I think part of that is just education as well. We have these super talented chefs that just need examples of like how to make basic substitutions that they can just pull out of their back pocket and then create these crazy dishes. So I'm being cognizant of time, and I'm being told that we're going to wrap it up, and then we're going to turn it over to Tania and see her final beautiful creation. But my last question, and I'll try and get you to give me short and snappy answers. What is our call to action for fellow chefs and students? What are we asking them? What should we be asking them to do for us? I'm going to go Javier first.
Very straightforward. Every little bit helps. One step at a time, and just do it.
I love that. That's amazing. Amazing. Okay, Caroline.
I would say stay open, stay curious, and be the change. I really believe that you can be the change. If you're looking around to see why isn't somebody doing it, how come they're not doing it better, then it's you.
Oh my goodness. No, I can't even. Okay, Davide. Davide, you're muted.
Yes, I was muted. The call sign for 2020, 2021. It's the call to action is find out where your food comes from, find out what your food is all about, find your personal touch, make sure you're sharing and celebrating that. And you know what? Join things. In order to get that information, join into these conversations, join into that engagement, join that local farm, go around and experience things firsthand. There's nothing like it, and you'll be appreciative of that.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And Lauren?
Just to explore a new way of looking at food, challenge yourself and practice.
Oh my goodness. I love it. I love it so much. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're all so busy, but it was so insightful and inspiring. And I can't thank you enough. It was so lovely to chat with you. And one day I can't wait to meet you all in person. Okay, we're gonna turn it over to Tania and see what she's come up with, and hopefully see the final product. Hello! Yay! Are
Wow.
you kidding me?
I'm playing
oh
up
my
now.
goodness.
You guys are just, I was hanging on every single word of everyone, those last answers. You guys really get me.
I know. It's
So
to
good.
tear up a little bit.
I wish we were all in person, but one day.
One day. This looks incredible. Please tell me.
Thank you. Okay, so I don't know how this table is going to work out without tipping the plate.
Looks beautiful.
The farinata, I kind of treated it like a flatbread meets a pizza. It's actually really kid-friendly as well.
Perfect.
So, and I'm topping it with a little bit of pesto. And actually, somebody, I can't remember, maybe Javier, someone's talking about using stems and ends and roots and all kinds of weird bits. So this pesto is basically a root to stem pesto. I like to save my kale stems and then I make a big batch of pesto with a bunch of other stuff and some basil and things. And I also use pistachios because I had them. They were just like, those random dregs of nuts and seeds that you find. So pistachio and a little bit of nutritional yeast to keep it plant-based and some lemon zest. And that's pretty much it.
Bob's your uncle. It is beautiful. It's so beautiful. Thank you so much for the love and care that's going into it. I
don't know how if you can pick it up on the camera.
See it. Yeah.
Oh,
I can see every part of it. Oh, so lovely. Thank you so much for your efforts. Thank you for letting us into your kitchen during these strange times. It was an absolute delight having you today. And yeah, again, thank you so much for your time and your passion and telling us all your lovely stories.
Oh, likewise. It was so wonderful to hear all of your stories, and you did such a wonderful job moderating. I felt like, yeah, you guys are all wonderful.
Yay! Pat on the back for everyone. Amazing. Wonderful. Okay. With that said, we're coming to a close. Again, I just want to say a huge thank you, obviously, to our chefs, but also for those of you who are tuning in. And my kind of question for you is, what are you going to do with this information that you have now learned? How are you going to practically apply it in your own life? With that said, I'll turn it over to Judy. Thanks so much for having me, and take care and be safe.
Thank you so much, Chef Amy, and to all the other chefs for this. I know that we'll have a great conversation in Kumo Space. So our event is almost over, but not quite. So I look forward to people clicking onto that link and then heading over, and you will meet the chefs and other guests who have not been able to speak, but they've been posting in the chat box, and they will be over there. And it's your chance to find someone. So when you go over there, you'll have to create yourself a quick a login account name, and make sure you put in as much information as you can so that people know how to find you. So your name, maybe what college or institution or company you're with, and that way, you know, people can come and find you. You can go find other people and have a chat. It's really, really easy to do. It's quite intuitive. We have some CICan staff waiting at the doors, so you won't be alone. When you just go into that space, there'll be someone right there to welcome you and tell you how to make your way into the space. You can go up to the bar and have a virtual drink. If you go close to the grand piano, you can hear it play music. And yeah, it's like a really casual place. And please go up to the speakers. I know that they will be keen to answer your questions or hear your thoughts about what they've shared, and perhaps letting them know what you think you might be doing with this information. So the link is on the screen above here. You can see it, and hopefully you can also click on it on the link and make your way over. Someone will stay here so that if you are having some trouble, please make it known in the chat that you need some help, and we'll see you over there. I'll be over there myself, and I will make some final announcements at that time. So thanks very much, and see you right next door